Hey everyone, welcome back to Code and Create. In this video, we're going to build a complete personal portfolio website using the latest React 19 and Tailwind CSS 4. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced developer, this project will teach you tons of modern web development techniques, helping you create a stunning, fully responsive portfolio that will make you stand out. If you are a web developer, having a portfolio is not just a plus, it is necessary. It's your digital resume, the place where you showcase your skills, projects, and experience. Whether you're applying for jobs, freelancing, or just building your online presence, a well-crafted portfolio helps you make a strong first impression. That's why in this video, we're going to build a modern, interactive portfolio that looks professional, polished, and super smooth across all devices. If you are new here, my name is George, and I run this channel with my friend Lasha. We've been teaching web development for several years on popular educational platforms, with thousands of happy students around the world. Our goal here on YouTube is to bring you high-quality, in-depth coding tutorials that actually help you become a better developer. Also, before we dive in, I want to quickly mention that I've added donation options to help us continue making free, high-quality content like this. A QR code is on the screen, and there is also a support link in the description. If you enjoy what we do and want to support the channel, any amount is truly appreciated. And of course, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you don't miss future content, and drop a comment below to let us know your thoughts. Alright, now let's take a detailed look at what we are going to build. This portfolio website features a beautiful and interactive hero section that immediately grabs attention and makes a lasting impression. Right at the top we have a striking text animation where the word hello is not just static text. It comes to life with an engaging hover effect. As you move your mouse over each letter, an image of the developer pops up, creating a fun and dynamic introduction that makes the design stand out. Below that we have another unique text animation where the profession title rotates dynamically, smoothly transitioning between different roles like front-end, back-end, and full stack. Further down, there is a call to action button that expands smoothly a detailed bio section. This section is designed to be clean, elegant, and user-friendly, making it easy for visitors to learn more about you. Also, we have here social media icons neatly aligned, allowing visitors to quickly connect with you on different platforms. At the very top of the road image, there is a subtle yet eye-catching bouncing text animation that reads, "Looking for new challenges." This small detail adds a dynamic touch to the design, reinforcing the idea of growth, ambition, and continuous learning. Moving on to the services section, we have a clean, modern grid layout displaying different skills in visually appealing cards. These cards have hover effects that reveal project links, and they adjust their positioning dynamically based on screen size. Next we have the contact section, where visitors can easily reach out to you through a simple yet elegant form. Every input field is styled beautifully, and the form itself blends perfectly with the overall design. The portfolio website features a smooth and intuitive navigation experience, ensuring that users can easily explore different sections without any abrupt jumps. When clicking on a navigation item, the page smoothly scrolls to the corresponding section, creating a seamless transition that feels natural and engaging. This is achieved using the scroll into view method, which allows for fluid movement across the site instead of an instant jump. But that's not all. Scroll tracking functionality is also implemented, meaning that as the user manually scrolls up or down, the navigation automatically highlights the active section in real time. This ensures that visitors always know where they are on the page. One of the standout features of this portfolio website is the dark light mode toggle, allowing users to seamlessly switch between a bright, clean light theme and a sleek, modern dark theme. This not only enhances the visual experience, but also provides better accessibility for different lighting conditions and personal preferences. The transition between themes is smooth and visually appealing, ensuring a polished and professional feel. To make this functionality even more user-friendly, we've integrated local storage, meaning the website remembers the user's preferred theme even after refreshing the page or returning later. This ensures a consistent experience every time someone visits, making the website feel more personalized and intuitive. But that's not all. This portfolio website is fully responsive, meaning it looks and works perfectly across desktop, tablet, and mobile devices. To enhance the user experience, we've added a loading animation when the site first loads, making everything feel polished and professional. So, as you can see, this isn't just a basic portfolio, it's a high-quality, feature-packed website that any developer would be proud to have. Now that we've gone through a detailed overview, let's jump right in and start building this portfolio website from scratch. I created a new folder called Portfolio Website, which right now is empty. I'm going to open it in VS Code. The first thing we need to do is to create our React application with Tailwind CSS. Since we are using Vite, we will initialize our project with the following command. In the terminal, we need to run npm create Vite at latest, followed by the name of the project, which is going to be Portfolio Website. Then we need dash dash followed by dash dash template, and then React. So this command will generate a new React project named Portfolio Website, and Vite will handle the project structure, giving us a minimal setup that's optimized for speed and performance. Once the installation is complete, you will see a new folder, Portfolio Website, which contains a set of files and folders that make up our project. Before we start looking at these files, let's navigate into our project directory using cd portfolio website. Now, let's go ahead and install Tailwind CSS. Since we are using Tailwind CSS version 4, we need to install it with the following command: npm install Tailwind CSS, then add Tailwind CSS /Vite. So this will install Tailwind CSS along with the Vite plugin required for seamless integration. Once the installation is complete, we need to configure Tailwind CSS. As you already know, in Tailwind CSS version 4, the Tailwind config file is no longer generated by default. Instead, we configure Tailwind CSS directly inside our Vite config file. So here, we need to import Tailwind CSS from @Tailwind CSS Vite. Then inside the plugins array, we have to insert Tailwind CSS right after the React. Okay, so this will ensure that Tailwind CSS is properly configured within our project. Next, we have to set up Tailwind space styles. For that, I'm going to open index.css file and clear it out. We have to insert here, import Tailwind CSS. As you see, we no longer have here the Tailwind CSS directives like base, components, and utilities. We have here just this single line. Alright, so even though Tailwind does not require a separate configuration file anymore, we still need to create a Tailwind config file to make the Tailwind CSS IntelliSense extension work properly in VS Code. So I'm going to create it manually here inside the project. We need tailwind.config.js. For now, we will leave it empty. Alright, next we need to clean up some of the default files and folders that we don't need. This will help us keep the project organized and minimal. First, I'm going to delete the icon inside the public folder. Then let's delete the assets folder at all. Now inside the public folder, I'm going to insert the images that we're going to use throughout this project. I have prepared the assets folder where I store images and index.js file. I'm going to drag and drop images into the public folder. So here we have all the images that we're going to use throughout this project. Next, I'm going to delete the app.css file. We don't need it at all. Then open index.html file. I'm going to get rid of this pub icon and also change the title of the project. It's going to be Portfolio Website. Next, I'm going to open up the JSX file and delete the entire content. Then I'm going to create a new React functional component using the shortcut RAFCE. I said it already a couple of times that this shortcut comes from extension called ES7 React Redux GraphQL React Native Snippet, so I recommend to install this extension. Alright, so as you can see, the new React functional component is generated and it returns a single development with the text app. Now that our setup is complete, let's run our project to see if everything is working correctly. I'm going to run at the terminal npm run dev. This will start a development server and will generate a local URL. In order to open it in the browser, we have to press Alt and then click the link. So as you can see, our project is up and running in the browser. Now let's place the browser and the editor side by side, like so. Now back inside the src folder, let's create a new folder called data. This folder will store any static data or utility files we need. So throughout this project, we're going to use some data, which I have in the index.js file. I'm going to drag and drop this file here. So as you can see, this file includes all the data we're going to use. Actually, we'll go through this data a bit later. Let's close this file for now. Next, I'm going to add box icons, a popular icon library to enhance our UI with sleek and lightweight icons. So let's go to the browser and search for box icons. This is the official website of box icons library. We need to click usage. Under the import the CSS section, let's grab this CDN link, open index.html file and paste the link in the header link. Alright, next let's go ahead and set up our typography. For this project we'll use one of the Google fonts. So let's go to the Google Fonts website and search for font called Manrope. I'm going to click get font, then we need to click get embed code and copy those links from here and paste them right after the box icons CDN link. Now that we have imported the font, we need to apply it globally across our project. For that, I'm going to open index.css file, select every element using an asterisk and set font family to Manrope serif. This will ensure that every text element in our project automatically uses the Manrope font. If we go to the browser and look at the text app, you will see that the font is changed. Alright, so with all these steps completed, our installation and setup are done. At this point, we have a React application initialized with Vite, Tailwind CSS version 4 installed and configured, unnecessary files and assets removed to keep our project clean. Also, box icons are added for icons, Google fonts are integrated for typography, and the default font is applied across the entire project. With everything set up, we are now ready to move on to the next step and start building the portfolio website from scratch. Alright, let's get started with building the hero section of our portfolio website. This is the very first thing users will see when they land on our page, and it's going to include a navbar at the top and a clean structured layout. To keep things organized, I'm going to create a new folder in the src folder, and it's going to be components. And inside here we need to create two files. The first one is going to be hero, the JSX, and then we need navbar.jsx. So the first component will be the main hero section. As for the second file, it will be our navigation bar, which sits at the top of the page. Once we have these files, let's start by connecting them inside our app.jsx file. First, I'm going to close those files, we don't need them. And actually, we need to create React functional components, so we need RAFCE. Then we need same for the hero section as well. So here I'm going to import Navbar. from Navbar. Then we need to nest it here. This makes sure that the navbar is rendered at the top of the hero section. Now let's go ahead and open up the JSX file and import hero section here. So we need import hero from components hero, and we need to nest hero inside the div elements. Now, if we check the browser, we'll see an empty page because we haven't added any styling yet, but the structure is in place. The hero section is being rendered inside the app, and within it we have our navbar. To ensure our hero section takes up the full viewport height, let's go ahead and add some classes to the wrapper div element inside the app.jsx file. So I'm going to add here classes minimum height screen. It means that the minimum height will be equal to 100 viewport height, and then we need background gray 900. If we check the browser, we'll see a dark background filling the entire screen. Our hero section is there, but since there is no content yet, it still looks empty. Next, let's set up the hero.jsx wrapper. So I'm going to add here class name. We need width full, 100%, and then edge screen 100 viewport height. Now our hero section spans the entire viewport, ready for content. The navbar should sit at the very top of the hero section and stay fixed as we scroll. Let's start by customizing a wrapper development of the navbar. I'm going to add here class width full. Then I'm going to define the height, and actually I'm going to use responsive breakpoints. We need empty height equal to 12. It means that height for wider screens than 768 pixels will be 12, which is 48 pixels. Next we need SM breakpoints. Height is going to be 14. It means that from smaller to medium screen sizes, the height will be 14, which is equal to 56 pixels. Next we need H18. It means that for smaller screen sizes, the height is going to be 72 pixels. Next we need flexbox, followed by justify between. Then I'm going to use item center to center the flex items inside the flex container. Next we need to define padding horizontally. We need to use px, and again let's use responsive breakpoints. We need XL px equal to 36. Next we need LG breakpoint, and the padding is going to be 24. Then I'm going to use MD breakpoints, px equal to 12. Then we need SM breakpoints, and the px is going to be 6. And finally we need px4. As I said, the navbar will have fixed position, so we need fixed. Then actually we need here fixed. Then top position is going to be 0. And now I'm going to use a red background. It's going to be a temporary background, so we can see how the navbar looks in the browser. Let's use PG red 500. Let's check the browser. So when we check the browser, we can see the navbar clearly at the top of the screen. It's spanning the full width and properly spaced, but we'll replace the red background with our actual theme color. Let's change red to gray, and we need here 900. So checking the browser again, we see that the navbar now blends smoothly into the dark theme. On the left side of the navbar, we will add a developer's name, which acts as our logo. So let's get rid of this text from here. Then I'm going to open div elements, and let's add here classes. We need flex, then items center. Next we need to create some gap on the horizontal x-axis, so I'm going to use SM breakpoint. The gap is going to be 4, and then we need gap x2 for smaller screen sizes. Now inside here I'm going to open link elements. Let's add to the link some classes. We need MD breakpoint, text is going to be 2XL. Then we need SM breakpoint, and the text is going to be XL. And finally we need text LG for smaller screen sizes. Also change the color of the text is going to be yellow 500. As for the content of the link element, let's insert here Nick Brown. You can use any of the names. It's up to you. Let's go to the browser. So we can see Nick Brown is now displayed in yellow, positioned at the left. To the right of the logo, let's add a sun icon for switching between the light and dark modes. So right after link element, I'm going to open iElement. Let's add to it some classes. We need bx sun. Then I'm going to use empty breakpoint. The text is going to be 3XL. Then we need SM breakpoint. Text will be 2XL. Next we need text XL for smaller screen sizes. Also I'm going to define the color of the text, which is going to be gray 200. Then we need SM breakpoints, margin left 4, and then margin left 2 for smaller screen sizes. And finally, let's use cursor pointer. Now, if we check the browser, we'll see a sun icon next to the name. Clicking it doesn't do anything. We will add functionality for toggling dark mode later. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is to add a simple home link on the right side. So here, right after this development, I'm going to open another div. Inside here, we need link elements. Then I'm going to add here class group. We are using group class here, which allows us to style nested elements when the parent is hovered. We'll use this for the underline effect in the next step. After that, I'm going to use LG breakpoint. Text is going to be LG. Then we need empty breakpoint. Text will be base. Next, I'm going to use text SM for smaller screen sizes. Also, let's set font to light. Next, I'm going to change the color of the text. Let's use yellow 500. Then we need margin on the right side. Let's use LG breakpoint. So margin on the right side is going to be 12. Then we need margin right 8 for smaller screen sizes. And finally, let's use tracking white to create some space between the letters. So as the content, we need home. Let's check the browser. So we now have here home link in yellow on the right side of the navbar. Below the home link, let's go ahead and add a small underline that will later animate on hover. So right after text home, we need to create span elements. Let's add to it classes. We need position absolute. Then we need position relative for the parent element, which in this case is link. So we need relative. We use relative in order to position the child elements according to the parent element. Next, I'm going to add here minus bottom 1, and left position is going to be 0. Then we need width equal to full 100%. The height is going to be 1 pixel. Let's use here an arbitrary value. And then change background color. Use here yellow. Actually, what am I doing here? We need background yellow 500. Let's check the browser. So we see that the home link now has a thin yellow line beneath it. Now let's make it appear and animate on hover by adding the following classes. So we need here transform, then scale x0. It means that we will hide the element at all. Then we need group, hover, and on hover we have to increase scale and make it 100. Also, let's use transition to make the effect smoother, and the duration is going to be 300. Alright, so actually we need here scale. Let's check other classes. Actually, we need here transition. Let's save the file, go to the browser. Now, if we hover, we can see the underline appearing smoothly. However, by default it scales from the center. We need it to start from the left and disappear towards the right. To fix this, I'm going to add, actually let's add it here, group, hover, So we need to change the origin of the transformation. By default, transform uses origin center, and in this case we have to change the origin and make it left. So we need origin left, and actually it should happen on hover. As for the default origin, it should be right, and this will allow us to move the line on the right side. So we need here origin right. Let's go to the browser. Now the underline smoothly grows from the left side and disappears in the right direction. So everything works as expected. Now I'm going to add other navigation links as well. Let's go ahead and duplicate home link twice. Change the content. We need here services. And then we need contact. So for now, I'm going to make the home link active. So I will keep it yellow. As for the services and contact, I will make them white. Let's change the background of this panel element. It's going to be white. Also change the text. We need here white. And the same we need for the contact link. We need white and text white. Let's go to the browser. So, as you can see, we have here 3 navigation items: home, services, contact. The home link is yellow, while the other 2 are white because we are treating home as the active link. And as I said, later we'll make this dynamic. Alright, so at this point, we have successfully created and structured the hero section. We built the navbar and positioned it at the top, styled and structured the logo, dark mode, toggle button, and navigation links, and also added an animated underline effect that starts from the left and disappears to the right. Now it's time to add content to the hero section. Let's take a quick look at the original project to remind ourselves of what this section includes. The hero section consists of a large heading with a dynamic text effect, also a button to toggle the bio of a web developer, a background image of a road, and some interactive animations that enhance the user experience. Also, we have here some social media icons. Alright, let's go ahead and start building it step by step. First, we need to structure the hero section properly by adding the necessary classes to the main wrapper div. I mean this div element. So I'm going to add here flex, then flex column to change the direction of the flex layout. Then we need justify center and item center to center the content of the element. Next, we need a div element that will wrap the entire content of the hero section, excluding the navbar. So right after navbar component, I'm going to open div elements and then add some classes. So we need here again flex, then flex column, followed by empty breakpoint. So on relatively larger screen sizes, we need item center. And for the smaller screen sizes, I'm going to use item start. Then we need Excel breakpoints. And on that breakpoint, we need gap y to be 10. Then we need gap y3 for smaller screen sizes. Actually, we need here gap y3. Next, I'm going to define Excel breakpoint and then margin bottom equal to 0. As for the empty breakpoint, I'm going to add here margin bottom equal to 20. And then for smaller screen sizes, we need margin bottom equal to 0. So inside this wrapper, we need to create an h1 element that will display the main heading. The heading will consist of 2 parts: the hello text, where each letter will be displayed individually, and the I am a web developer text, which includes a rotating effect on specific words. So let's define the heading and apply some styling. Inside this development, we need h1 heading element with the following classes. Let's use flex, flex column. Then we need Excel breakpoint, space, y equal to 8. Then we need empty breakpoints and space, y4. And for smaller screen sizes, I'm going to use space, y2. Next, we need to change the text size. So we need Excel breakpoint. Text is going to be 6XL. For empty breakpoint, we need text 4XL. And then for smaller screen sizes, text is going to be equal to 3XL. Also, let's change the font weight. For empty breakpoint, we need fonts normal. As for the smaller screen sizes, I'm going to set font to bolder. And finally, let's change the color of the text. It's going to be yellow 500. Now, inside the heading, we need a span element that will wrap the hello text. This element will allow us to structure the text properly and add individual effects to each letter. So inside here, I'm going to create span with the class name. Actually, we need here class name, and it's going to be flex. All right, so instead of hard coding the hello text, we're going to dynamically render each letter using data stored in our index.js file. I mean, this file here. So as you can see, we have here an array called letters. This array serves as the foundation for rendering the dynamic hello text effect in our hero section. Each object inside the array represents an individual letter, allowing us to manipulate and display them in a structured and interactive way. So this array consists of 5 different objects. Each object has 3 different properties. The first one is character property. It holds the actual character of the word hello. Again, instead of hard coding the text, we store each letter as a separate object within the array, making it easier to loop through them dynamically and apply individual styles or effects. Each letter is associated with a unique image, referenced by the image property. These images will be displayed when the user hovers over the corresponding letter, adding an interactive visual element to the design. Then we have rotate property. This property defines the rotation angle for each letter's associated image. Now, we need to import this array into our hero component. So we need here import letters from data/index. So again, we need to dynamically render each letter of the word hello. Instead of manually writing each letter in the JSX, we will use JavaScript's map function to iterate over the letters array. So inside here, we need to open curly braces and then insert here letters.map. Then we need a callback function with the parameters letter and index. So in this case, we are iterating through the letters array, where each object in the array represents a single letter of hello along with its associated image and rotation properties. Now inside the map function, I'm going to create span elements and I'm going to add to it key prop with the value index, and then I'm going to add here class name. Actually, we need here class name. It's going to be inline block. As for the contents, we need here letter.character. Let's go to the browser. So at this point, we see here the text hello displayed correctly. And after that, we need to define the width for each letter. So I'm going to add here classes empty. Width is going to be 38. And then we need width for smaller screen sizes. It's going to be 32. Now let's check again the browser. So the spacing between the letters is a bit off. It is too wide. So we need to further reduce the space between the letters using margin right. So we need here XL breakpoint. And we need margin right with a negative value. It's going to be 20. And then we need minus margin right equal to 24. So this adjustment ensures the letters are closer together while still maintaining enough space to display their corresponding images on hover. Actually, you might wonder why we didn't just use a smaller width for each letter instead of reducing the margin. The reason is that we need extra space for the hover effect, where images will appear above the letters. Now, let's add the images associated with each letter. We will modify the mapping function to include an image inside this span element. So right after this line of code, we need to open image. Then as the source, we need to insert here letter.image. it is the property of the latest array, the object. As you can see, we have here image properties. As for the alt attribute, I'm going to add here the following. We need hover image. Then I'm going to open $sign with curly braces and insert here index +1. Since the index of an array is a 0 based, we need to +1 to the index. So the alt text for the first image is going to be hover image 1, then we will have hover image 2, and so on. Next, I'm going to add here some classes. So for Excel breakpoint, we need height to be 36. Then for smaller screen sizes, height is going to be 24. Next, I'm going to change the position of the image. It's going to be absolute. And we need position relative for the parent element, which is the span. So we need here relative. Then we need here bottom full. 100%. Okay, let's go to the browser. So as you can see, we have here images stacked together. I think that we have to move the images to the left side. And for that, I'm going to use minus translate x 50%. 1/2. Now the images are positioned correctly. Alright, next we need to apply the rotation effect to separate them visually. If we look back at the letters array, we see that the rotate property is assigned to each letter. The odd letters have negative rotation values, while the even ones have positive values. This is done to make the images tilt in different directions. To apply this effect dynamically, we need to modify the class name property of the image elements. So I'm going to grab those classes, then I'm going to add here curly braces with backticks. Let's paste back the classes. So here we need to add $sign with curly braces and then letter dot rotate. Now in the browser we can see that images are properly rotated. Currently all the images are visible, but we only want them to appear when hovering over the corresponding letter. To achieve this, we need to create a state to track which letter is being hovered over. So I'm going to create new state variable, and it's going to be hovered letter. Then we need set hovered letter. Let's get rid of React and import useState here. So as you can see, the default value is null. This state variable will help us display the corresponding image dynamically when we hover over a specific letter. Next, we need to modify the class name of the images to conditionally render them only when hovered. So here I'm going to add the following conditional statement. We need hovered letter equal to index. If it is true, then we need not opacity but visibility. So we need here visible and then invisible. So this conditional statement ensures that the image is visible only if the hovered letter state matches the current letter's index. If hovered letter matches the index, then we have visible, visibility, visible, and if it doesn't match, then we have visibility with the value hidden. To complete the hover effect, we need to update the state when the user hovers over a letter. We will use the onMouse enter and onMouse leave event handlers. So I'm going to add here onMouse enter event handler, and the value is going to be callback function. We have to update hovered letter state variable. Actually, I think we have here the correct suggestions. Set hovered letter with the value index, and also Copilot suggested us onMouse leave event handler with set hovered letter function and with the value null. So the first event, onMouse enter event, fires when the mouse pointer enters the element. When the mouse enters an element, we update the state with the index of the hovered letter. In this case, we will know which letter is currently hovered. Next, we have onMouseLeave event. When the user moves their mouse away from the letter, onMouseLeave fires. It calls setHoveredLetter function, resetting the state to null, meaning no letter is currently hovered. Let's go to the browser. So, as you can see, at this point, our hover effect is fully functional. When the user moves their mouse over a letter, its corresponding image fades in with the correct rotation, and when they move away, it disappears. With this, we have successfully built the dynamic hello effect in our hero section. Next, we have to take care of the second part of the heading. Let's take a look at the original project. So here we have the second part of the heading where we see a rotating animation applied to the text. Right now in our current project, we don't have this effect yet. The text is missing and we need to create it from scratch. Our goal is to add this text and make it dynamic so that it cycles through different profession names, smoothly transitioning between them with a rotation effect. Let's go ahead and create it. Inside the hero component, below the first heading part, we need to add a new span element. So let's create new span element. This will contain the professional title, which will dynamically change. So I'm going to add to this span element some of the classes. We need Excel breakpoint, text, 6XL. Then we need empty breakpoint. Text is going to be 4XL. And then we need text 2XL for smaller screen sizes. Also, we need some space between the letters using tracking wider. Then we need Excel breakpoint and padding Y equal to 4. And then we need PY2 for smaller screen sizes. Inside here, I'm going to insert IM. Then we need another span elements. Let's add to it some classes. So we need inline block for this span element. Then I'm going to define Excel breakpoint with width equal to, let's use an arbitrary value. It's going to be 380 pixels. Then we need empty breakpoint and the width is going to be 240 pixels. And then we need width for smaller screen sizes. It's going to be 160 pixels. After that, I'm going to define LG breakpoint. Margin left is going to be 6. Then we need margin left for smaller screens, and it's going to be 2. And finally, we need font to be extra bold. As the contents, I'm going to insert here a front end. Alright, so after this span element, I'm going to insert web developer. Okay, let's go to the browser. So at this point, we have simply added a static text inside the second span displaying a front end. We can see that it appears correctly within the heading. However, right now the text inside the second span is hard-coded. It always shows a front end and doesn't change. What we need to do next is make this text dynamic so that it cycles through different profession names, smoothly transitioning between them with a rotation effect. To achieve this, the first thing we need is an array containing all the different profession titles we want to rotate through. We already have this array in our index.js file. As you can see, we have here array profession text, which includes 3 different texts, a front end, a backend, a full stack. Now we need to bring this array into our hero.js file so we can use it. We have already imported letters array from index.js file, and what we need here is just adding profession text array. Now that we have access to this text, we need a way to store and update the currently displayed text dynamically. For that, we will use a state variable. So let's go ahead and define new state variable. It's going to be current text. Then we need set current text, useStateHook, and the default value is going to be 0, which is the index number of the first text in this array. It is a front end. Alright, so this state variable will hold the currently displayed profession title, which starts as a front end. The idea is that over time we'll update this variable to switch between a backend and a full stack, creating the rotation effect. Now that we have the profession text set up and stored in state, we need to create a mechanism to update the displayed text dynamically. The goal is to cycle through the different profession titles every few seconds, giving the effect of a rotating text animation. To achieve this, we first need a variable to keep track of which text is currently being displayed. So let's define it right after our state inside the hero component. The variable is going to be current index, and I'm going to make it equal to 0. So this variable will act as a counter that tracks the position of the currently displayed text within our profession text array. Since we have 3 different texts, we need to cycle through them in order, updating the displayed text accordingly. So each time we switch to the next text, we will increment current index, ensuring that the text updates sequentially. Once we reach the last item in the array, we will reset current index back to 0, so that the cycle starts again from the beginning. Now that we have a way to track the current position in the array, the next step is to create a function that updates the text automatically at regular intervals. For this, we will use the useEffect hook along with setInterval and setTimeout functions. So I'm going to use useEffect, then I'm going to import it from React. We use useEffect to handle side effects in React. I'm going to insert here second parameter, which is a dependency array. The empty dependency array ensures that this effect runs only once when the component mounts. Inside useEffect hook, we will implement a function that updates the text at a fixed interval. So inside here, I'm going to create a new variable, which is going to be interval. Then I'm going to use setInterval function. So as you can see, the copilot suggests some code here. But anyway, I'm going to type the code. We need here a callback function. So the callback function is the first argument of the setInterval method. As for the second argument, it's going to be the amount of time of the intervals. In our case, it's going to be 5000 milliseconds, which is equivalent of 5 seconds. So setInterval is a JavaScript function that repeatedly executes a piece of code after a specified time delay. Here we define an interval that will trigger every 5000 milliseconds. This means the text will change every 5 seconds, creating a smooth cycling effect. So inside here, I'm going to use setTimeout function. We need again a callback function. And then the second argument, we need 300 milliseconds. So inside the setInterval function, we use setTimeout to add a 300 millisecond delay before changing the text. This delay helps to create a smoother transition effect, preventing abrupt text changes. Without this, the text would change instantly, which might feel too sudden. Now inside here, we have to define current index, and actually, if we look at the suggestion, this is what we need here, so I'm going to use this code. So here we increment current index by 1 to move to the next profession text. Next we have modulus profession text.length. It ensures that when current index reaches the end of the array, it wraps around to 0. This allows us to continuously cycle through the text without going out of bounds. Next we have setCurrentText with the value current index. We use this to update the displayed text with a new value from the profession text array. This triggers a re-render, ensuring that the UI updates dynamically. Finally, we need to return a callback function with clearInterval function, and we have to pass here interval. This cleanup function ensures that when the component unmounts, we stop the interval. Without this, the interval would continue running even if the component is removed from the page, which could cause memory leaks. Now that we have the logic in place, we need to update our JSX to use the dynamic text instead of the hard-coded one. So let's go ahead and replace a frontend with current text. Okay, let's go to the browser. Well, something's wrong here because we are getting here the numbers 0, 1, 2. Let's go back to the VS Code and check the code. Here, instead of 0, I think we need profession text 0. Now let's go ahead and check the results. Now we have I'm a front-end web developer. Next we are getting still numbers. Well, we might have a mistake here inside the user fact hook. We have current index +1, then profession text at length. Then we update current text. Well, we need here profession text array and then the index number current index. Let's go to the browser. So I think everything's working fine. We see here the text updating automatically every 5 seconds. It starts with a front end, then smoothly transitions to a back end, and then a full stack, before looping back to a front end. Now that we have successfully implemented the text replacement effect, the next step is to add an actual rotating animation to make the transition smoother and more visually appealing. Right now, the text simply switches without any transition, which feels too abrupt. To fix this, we need to introduce a rotation effect that will animate the text as it changes. To control whether the text is currently rotating, we need a new state variable. So I'm going to create here a new state variable, which is going to be isRotating. Then we need setIsRotating function and useStateHook with the value false. Everything's correct. So this state variable acts as a trigger for the rotation effect. When isRotating is true, the text will rotate. When isRotating is false, the text will remain in its normal position. By toggling this state at the right moment, we can ensure that the rotation effect happens right before the text updates, making the transition smoother. Now that we have isRotating in place, we need to activate the rotation effect before changing the text. Therefore, we have to insert here setIsRotating function and we have to make it true. This sets isRotating to true, signaling that the text is about to change. We place it before updating the text, so the text starts rotating before transitioning to the next value. Next we need to insert here setIsRotating with the false value. Once the text update is complete, we set isRotating back to false. This ensures that the text returns to its normal position after each transition. Now that we have the logic in place, let's apply the rotation effect to the span element inside our JSX. We need to modify the class of the span containing the profession text. I mean this span element here. So I'm going to grab this class. Then we need here curly braces with backticks. Let's paste back the class. And here I'm going to insert $sign followed by the curly braces. We have to check if isRotating is true or false. If it is true, we need rotate 100 degrees. And if it is false, we need rotate 0. So again, when isRotating is true, the text rotates 100 degrees, creating a flipping effect. When isRotating is false, the text remains in its normal position. Also, let's add here transform. Actually, we need transform. Now, if we check the browser, we can see that the text rotates as it changes. However, there is an issue. The text is rotating from the center, making the movement look unnatural. To make the animation look smoother, we need to change the rotation origin so that the text rotates from the left side instead of the center. And also we have to add some transition because the effect is quite sudden. So I'm going to add here origin left, and also we need transition transform, then duration 300, and also use isOut. Now, if we test again the project in the browser, we will get this nice and cool. In fact, it looks much better right now. The text rotates smoothly instead of abruptly switching. The transition happens from the left side, making it feel more natural. Also, each new text appears with a fluid animation, enhancing the user experience. The final step is to add overflow hidden to the wrapper span to make the effect even better. So I'm going to add here overflow hidden. Let's go back to the browser. So as you can see, the text is partially hidden while rotating, and it makes the effect even better. Now that we have successfully implemented the rotating text animation, it's time to add the rest of the content to the hero section. Let's start by adding the background image that will enhance the visual appeal of this section. We'll place an image inside a div element, making sure it is properly centered. So, right after h1 heading elements, I'm going to open div elements. I'm going to add to it some classes. We need LG breakpoint. Width is going to be 600 pixels. Then we need MD breakpoint. The width is going to be 500 pixels. And then we need width for smaller screen sizes. It's going to be 350 pixels. After that, I'm going to define the position of the div element. It's going to be absolute. Then we need left position equal to 50%. And then in order to center the element horizontally, we need to use minus translate x 50%. Inside here, I'm going to open image. The source is going to be images / road.png. As for the alt attribute, I'm going to insert here road image. And then add here some classes. We need width full, 100%, and also in order to center the image inside the container, I'm going to use MX Auto. Now let's go to the browser. So as you can see, the image is now visible, but there is a problem. It is overlapping the heading. This happens because both the heading and the image are positioned absolutely within the same parent container, which causes them to stack on top of each other. So to resolve this, we need to adjust the z-index of the image so that it sits behind the heading instead of covering it. We can do this by adding the z-index property to the div element that wraps the image. So I'm going to add here -z 10. Now if we check the browser, we can see that the image has moved behind the text. However, we have encountered another issue. The image is now completely invisible. This happens because of stacking context rules in CSS. Since we applied a negative z-index, the image has moved behind its parent container, which means it's not being rendered as expected. To bring the image back while keeping it behind the heading, we need to modify the parent wrapper of the hero section by adding the isolate class. So I'm going to add here class isolate. The isolate utility in Tailwind CSS ensures that child elements do not inherit the stacking context of their ancestors. In simpler terms, it forces this container to act as an independent stacking layer, preventing elements inside it from getting pushed behind unintended layers. Now if we check the results, the image is visible again while still sitting correctly behind the text. The -z10 class has successfully placed it behind the heading, but thanks to isolate, it's no longer hidden by higher stacked elements. Next, we need to add a button that allows users to expand and read the developer's bio. This will improve engagement by making the biography test collapsible rather than always visible. So right after h1 heading element, I'm going to open button, and then I'm going to add some classes to these elements. So we need Excel breakpoint, width is going to be 400 pixels. Then we need MD breakpoint, on which width is going to be 300 pixels. Then I'm going to set width to 270 pixels for smaller screens. Next, let's define the background. It's going to be gray, 200. Also, we need empty breakpoint with padding y equal to 1. And then for smaller screens, we need padding y equal to 0. Then we need empty breakpoint with padding x equal to 4. Next, I'm going to set padding x to 2 for smaller screens. Then let's take care of the text size. We need XL breakpoint. Text is going to be 2XL. Then we need empty breakpoint. Text is going to be XL. As for the smaller screens, we need text base. Also, I'm going to change the color of the text. It's going to be text gray 900. Let's create some space between the letters using tracking widest. Then we need rounded R, which means that the button will be rounded on the right side. The size is going to be 4XL. Next, I'm going to use flexbox. We need flex, justify between. Actually, we need here between, not baseline. Then I'm going to use item center. And finally, let's play around with some margins. We need empty breakpoint, margin right auto. So on larger screen sizes, the button will be placed on the left side. As for the smaller screens, it will be placed in the center. So for that, we need empty MX 0 and then MX auto for smaller screens. As for the content, we need here read my story followed by the I elements. Let's add to it some classes. We need bx book open. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, the button is displayed below the heading. It is styled with a light gray background and a subtle rounded shape on the right side. At this point, the button is purely visual. It doesn't do anything when we click. We'll handle its functionality later, but for now, let's move on to displaying the bio text. We store the developer's biography text in the index.js file. So here we have the text. I'm going to import it in the hero section. So I'm going to add here, let's recall the name. It's about text. Now that we have access to this text, we need to create a div element right after the image. This div will act as a wrapper for the paragraph, ensuring that the text is properly styled and displayed. So we need here div elements with the classes XL height. It's going to be 150 pixels. Then we need height for smaller screens, and it's going to be 100 pixels. Then I'm going to define padding X 3. Next, we need to take care of the text. Let's use XL breakpoint. Text is going to be LG. Then we need empty breakpoint on which text is going to be base. As for the smaller screen sizes, we need text XS. Then I'm going to set font to light. Also, we need text gray 200. Actually, we need here gray. And after that, I'm going to use text justify. And finally, we need tracking white to create some space between the letters. Alright, so that's it about the div element, which is the wrapper of the paragraph. Now inside here, I'm going to create paragraph. Let's add to it some classes. We need XL, padding Y 3. Then we need padding Y 1 for smaller screens. And then we need PX 1. As for the content, I'm going to insert here about text. If we check the browser now, we can see that the bio text is visible, correctly positioned below the button. However, at this stage, the text is always displayed. It's not collapsible yet. Now that we have successfully displayed the developer's biography, the next step is to add functionality that allows users to toggle the text visibility when clicking the Read My Story button. Right now, the text is always visible, which is not ideal. Instead, we want it to be hidden by default and only appear when the button is clicked. To control the visibility of the text, we need to create a state variable inside the hero section. So inside here, I'm going to create a new state variable, which is going to be is text visible. Then we have here a suggestion, set is text visible, and use state with value false. So is text visible state variable is a boolean that determines whether the biography text is visible or hidden. Initially, it is set to false, meaning the text will not be displayed when the page loads. When the user clicks the Read My Story button, we will toggle the state between true and false, allowing the text to expand or collapse accordingly. To make the biography expand and collapse smoothly, we will use a CSS transform effect. Let's modify the class of the div wrapping the paragraph. I mean, this development here. I'm going to cut those classes. Then we need curly braces with backticks, paste back the class. So here I'm going to add transform. Then we need the conditional statement is text visible. If it is true, we need class scale y 100. And if it is false, we need scale y0. Alright, so when is text visible is false, the text will be completely hidden by scaling it down vertically to 0. When is text visible is true, the text expands back to its full height. At this point, we have applied the scaling logic, but the text still will not expand or collapse because we haven't linked it to the button click event yet. Let's fix that next. To toggle the biography text visibility, we need to modify the Read My Story button by adding an onClick event handler. So I'm going to add here onClick. Then inside here, we need a callback function. And as you can see, we need to set is text visible to not is text visible. This event handler inverts the current state whenever the button is clicked. If is text visible is false, clicking the button sets it to true, making the text appear. If is text visible is true, then clicking the button sets it back to false, hiding the text again. Now, if we check the browser, you will see that the text is hidden by default, and clicking the button expands and collapses as expected. The entire paragraph expands, making it too tall when opened, and also the effect is sudden and abrupt. So to fix these issues, we need to ensure that only a limited portion of the text is visible, with the rest becoming scrollable. To limit the visible height of the text while allowing users to scroll, we need to add the following classes to the paragraph wrapper. So I'm going to add to this element here, overflow, y_auto, and then we need transition, transform, duration, 300. So the class overflow y_auto ensures that if the text exceeds the set height, a scroll bar appears, allowing users to scroll through the content. Now, if we test the project, we can see that the text expands and collapses smoothly. Scroll bar appears when the text is too long to fit inside the set height. However, there is another issue. The text expands from the center instead of from the top. This makes the animation look unnatural. So let's go ahead and fix that. To make it expand from the top, we need to add origin top. Now if we go to the browser and click the button, now you see that the text expands in a natural downward motion, making the animation feel much more polished. However, the default scroll bar is ugly and doesn't match the design, so I'm going to replace it with a custom one. To customize the scroll bar, I'm going to open index.css file, and here I'm going to add the following styles. We need custom scroll bar, then followed by WebKit scroll bar. The width is going to be 8 pixels. Then I'm going to duplicate this code. Next we need scroll bar track. Here I'm going to change the background. The color is going to be 1 F2937. And besides that, we need border radius 4 pixels. Let's duplicate this code again. Next, we need scroll bar thumb. I'm going to change the background color. It's going to be F24. The border radius will be the same. Finally, I'm going to duplicate once again this scroll bar. I'm going to add here hover. On hover, I'm going to change the background color, and it's going to be F59E0B. Alright, so I think that's it. Now to apply this style, we need to add scroll bar, actually custom scroll bar to the div elements. Let's go to the browser. So, as you can see, the scroll bar is smaller and more aesthetically pleasing. It matches the theme and color scheme of the project. Alright, the next improvement we need to make is styling the first letter of the text to make it visually stand out. To make the first letter of the biography more noticeable, we need to apply the following styles to the paragraph. We need here ampersand followed by first letter. Then we need text 30 pixels. This increases the font size of the first letter to 30 pixels, making it stand out. After that, we need again ampersand, first letter. Then we need margin left equal to 5. This adds left margin to separate the first letter from the rest of the text. And finally, we need here again ampersand, first letter. And we have to change the color. It's going to be yellow 500. Alright, so let's go to the browser. Now, as you can see, the biography text looks more elegant and refined. The first letter is larger and styled differently. It adds a professional and polished feel to the section. Now that we have successfully implemented the biography toggle functionality, let's make the hero section even more interactive and visually engaging. I'm going to change the button behavior. I mean, once we click it, we have to change the read my story text and also replace the icon. So let's go back to the VS Code. Let's find button. So here I'm going to cut this text from here. Then we need curly braces. And we have to pass here is text visible. If it is true, then we need hide my story. If it is false, then we need read my story. So if text visible is true, the button text will change to hide my story, indicating that clicking it will collapse the text. And if is text visible is false, the button will display read my story, prompting the user to expand the bio. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, the text is collapsed. Therefore, we see here hide my story. And once we click, the text will be replaced. Alright, now we need the same thing with the icon. So let's modify the class name of iElement. I'm going to cut this class. Then we need curly braces with backticks. So here we need the following conditional statement. Again, is text visible? If it is true, then we need bx book alt. And if it is false, then we need this class. I'm going to cut it and add it here. Let's go to the browser. Now, when we click the button, the icon will switch smoothly, reinforcing the text change and making the toggle action even clearer. Alright, now to improve the visual aesthetics, let's add a hover effect to the background image so that when users hover over the button, the image becomes more visible. First, we need to create a state variable. Let's add here new state variable. it's going to be road image opacity. Then we need set road image opacity, and I'm going to set it to 0.5. So this controls the opacity level of the background image. Initially, it is set to 0.5, meaning the image is semi-transparent by default. When the user hovers over the button, we will increase the opacity to 0.8, making the image more visible. Now, we need to apply this opacity to the image using the style attribute. So I'm going to add here style. Then we need opacity. And I'm going to pass here road image opacity. Let's go to the browser. Now as you can see, the image appears faded by default, creating a nice subtle effect. However, we need to add hover functionality to increase the opacity when interacting with the button. To dynamically adjust the opacity, let's add 2 event handlers to the button. So first we need on mouse enter. We need here a callback function with set road image opacity function. In this case, we need here 0.8. And then we need on mouse leave. As you can see, the compiler suggests the code. We need set road image opacity with the value 0.5. So when the mouse enters the button, opacity increases to 0.8. And once the mouse leaves, the opacity restores to the faded effect. And when the mouse leaves, this function restores the faded effect. Let's go to the browser. So if we hover over the button, then we will get this effect. Actually, we need to make it smoother using transition. So I'm going to add transition to the image. We need here transition, opacity, and duration 300. Now, as you can see, the effect is seamless. The image fades in smoothly when hovering over the button and fades back when the mouse leaves. Alright, next we need to add the social media icons on the page. To add social media links, let's first look at the data structure in the index.js file. As you can see, we have here an array called social icons. This array consists of 4 different objects. Each object has one property icon with the corresponding icon classes. Let's go ahead and import this array in the hero components. We need I'm going to add it here right away. We need social icons. Next, we need to add a div element right after the button. So let's add here div elements and add to it some classes. We need flex, then empty breakpoint gap is going to be 12. As for the smaller screens, the gap is going to be 2. And then we need margin right arrow to place the social icons to the left side. Now, in order to render dynamically the social media icons, we have to map through the social icons array. So inside here, we need social icons.map. Then we need callback function with 2 parameters, icon and index. Then we need an arrow function. And inside here, I'm going to open link elements. First, we need to add here key prop with index. And then I'm going to add here some classes. We need XL, text, 3XL. Then we need empty text 2XL. Then we need text yellow 500. And then we need to create hover effect. On hover, I'm going to change the text and make it white. And also let's use transition, colors, and duration 500. Inside the link elements, I'm going to open iElements and then add here class name. So instead of writing the classes in the quotes, I'm going to open curly braces and add here icon.icon. Actually, let's change this name in order to avoid use icon twice. I'm going to call it social. Let's go to the browser. So the social media icons appear correctly. And we have here this nice hover effect. Alright, now let's add a bouncing text animation to the hero section. Let's first navigate to the original project. So here we have the bouncing text animation. It is positioned near the end of the road image and has a subtle bouncing animation. The text moves up and down smoothly in a looping animation. It is small in size but still noticeable because of the animation. So let's go back to the VS Code. And right after image element, let's create span. We need here looking for new challenges. And then I'm going to add some classes to the span elements. We need here XL, text, XS. Then we need empty breakpoints. The text is going to be 10 pixels. Next we need text for smaller screen sizes, and it's going to be 8 pixels. After that, I'm going to set font to bold. Then we need tracking white. Also, let's change the color of the text. It's going to be yellow 500. Then I'm going to take care of the position of the element. We need position absolute. Then the to position is going to be -5. Then we need XL breakpoint. The right position is going to be 22 for larger screens. Then we need LG breakpoint. We need right position 26. Then we need empty breakpoints. Right is going to be 16. And then we need right 10 for smaller screens. After that, I'm going to set rotate to 3.5 degrees. And actually, that's it. Let's check the browser. So at this stage, we can see that the text is correctly positioned and styled. It sits at the edge of the road image, slightly rotated, just like in the original project. However, right now it is static. The next step is to bring it to life with a bouncing animation. Tailwind CSS4 provides a built-in animation utility that we can use to apply a bouncing effect to the text. The default animation continuously moves an element up and down, creating a smooth bounce effect. To apply it, simply add the following class to the span element. We need animate bounce. Now if we check the browser, we can see that the text bounces up and down. This makes it feel more interactive and grabs the user's attention subtly. However, there is a problem. The bouncing effect is too strong and the animation feels slightly abrupt instead of smooth. To refine this, we need to customize the bounce animation to make it look just right. To define a custom bounce animation, we'll use the new theme directive in Tailwind CSS4. This allows us to create custom keyframe animations directly inside the Tailwind configuration. So I'm going to open index.css file, and here I'm going to add theme directive. Inside here we need keyframes. Let's call it bounce. So at 0% and also at 100%, we need transform, translate y with the value -75%. And then we need animation timing function. Let's get rid of cubic busier. We need here is out. So this code moves the text up to -75% instead of the default bounce in Tailwind. Next we need 50%. And here I'm going to grab this code. So instead of -75%, we need here just 2 pixels. With this code, the text moves down just 2 pixels at 50% of the animation cycle, keeping the movement subtle. Next, we need to add here animate bounce, and I'm going to add here bounce 2-second infinite. Let's go to the browser. So, as you can see, the text is bouncing, but I think it's too fast. Let's check the codes. We have here a typo. We need animate. Now let's check the browser. Okay, so that's it. The text bounces gently. The animation looks more natural and polished. Alright, so with everything in place, our hero section is now fully built and polished. We created a dynamic heading with a rotating text animation that cycles through different profession titles. We added a background image and ensured it's properly positioned with a smooth hover opacity effect. We implemented the interactive biography section where users can expand and collapse the text with a button. We rendered social media icons, making them interactive with hover effects. And finally, we added the bouncing text animation at the top of the road, customizing the bounce effect for a smooth and subtle movement. Now we need to implement dark and light mode functionality to enhance the user experience. This will allow users to switch between light mode, which is the default one, and dark mode, making the UI more adaptable and visually comfortable. Before we start coding, let's first take a look at how this feature works in our original project, so we can better understand what we are about to build. There is a toggle button, a sun and moon icon, that allows users to switch between light and dark mode. When dark mode is activated, the background changes to dark and text colors adjust accordingly. The theme persists even after refreshing the page. This persistence is handled using local storage, which saves the selected theme and automatically applies it when the page loads. To build this feature, we will use Tailwind CSS4 and the React Context API to manage the theme state globally. The React Context API is a built-in solution for managing global state in a React application. Instead of passing props manually through multiple components, context allows us to store and manage state in a centralized place, making it easily accessible throughout the app. For our dark mode feature, we will create a theme context to manage the theme state, provide this context to the entire application using a provider, and consume the context inside any component that needs access to the theme state. Before implementing dark mode, we need to set up the context API. First, inside the src folder, I'm going to create a new folder. Let's call it context. And then inside here, I'm going to create a new file, theme context.jsx. This file will hold our theme logic and allow us to manage dark mode globally. Inside theme context.jsx file, the first thing we need to do is create a new context variable. It's going to be theme context, and I'm going to make it equal to create context. The create context function creates a new context object which acts as a global state container. This object allows us to store and share data, such as the theme state, across multiple components without passing props manually. Since create context is a built-in React function, we need to import it at the top of the file. So here we need to import create context from React. Now our file has the theme context object ready, but it doesn't do anything yet. Next, we need to wrap our entire application with a provider that will manage the theme state. For this, we create a new function right after the theme context variable. We need export theme provider. Then we need here an arrow function. And inside here, I'm going to insert parameter called children. So, theme provider is a React component that will act as a wrapper around our entire application. It will hold the theme state and provide it to all components that need access to dark mode. In React, children represents any nested components inside theme provider. This allows theme provider to wrap our entire app, ensuring that any component inside it can access the theme state. Now, inside the theme provider function, we need to return the theme context.provider. So inside here, I'm going to return theme context provider. So as you can see, the Copilot is suggesting the code, which is correct. So let's use it. So what is theme context.provider? This is the provider component that allows child components to access the theme state. Every context in React has a provider, which is responsible for passing the state and functions down to components that need them. By returning theme context.provider, we ensure that all child components inside theme provider can access and consume the theme state. The value attribute, this attribute here, is where we store the data that we want to make available globally. Right now it is empty, but soon we will pass in state variables and functions to control dark mode. As for the children, again it represents the nested components inside the theme provider. Now that we have set up the theme context provider, we need to introduce state management to allow the theme to be toggled dynamically. The first step is to create a new state variable inside the theme provider function. So inside here, I'm going to create new state variable. It's going to be dark mode. Then we need set dark mode, and as the default value, I'm going to use false. Next, we need to import useStateHook from React. So dark mode will store the current theme state, determining whether dark mode is enabled or disabled. We initialize it with false, meaning the default theme is light mode. Set dark mode is a function that updates the state, allowing us to switch between light and dark modes. Right now we've defined the state, but it's not yet affecting our application. Next, we need to make it available globally. To make the dark mode state accessible from any component, we need to pass it to the value attribute in the theme context.provider. So we need to pass here dark mode. So again, the value attribute is what makes dark mode available to all components inside our application. Any component that consumes this context will be able to read the current theme state. Without this, components wouldn't know whether this site is in light mode or dark mode. Now that the state is globally accessible, we need to apply the dark mode styling dynamically whenever the theme changes. To apply the dark mode styling when the theme changes, we need to use the useEffect hook. Now inside the theme provider, I'm going to add useEffect hook. So as you can see, the useEffect hook is imported from React automatically. If you don't see here useEffect, then go ahead and import it manually. So why do we need useEffect? As you know, the useEffect hook allows us to run code in response to state changes. In this case, we want to add or remove the dark class whenever dark mode changes. Without useEffect, the dark mode class wouldn't update dynamically when toggling themes. Inside useEffect, we need to select the root HTML element so that we can apply the dark class globally. For that, we define the following variable inside the useEffect. Variable root, which equals to document.document element. So here, document.document element refers to the root HTML element of the document. Tailwind's dark mode functionality relies on adding the dark class to the HTML element. By selecting it, we can control the theme for the entire page. Now that we have access to the root element, we need to conditionally add or remove the dark class whenever dark mode changes. We do this using the following ternary conditional statement inside the useEffect hook. So here we need dark mode followed by a ternary operator. Then we need root.classList. Actually, this suggestion is correct, so let's go ahead and use it. So if the dark mode is true, we apply this code here, which adds the dark class to HTML, activating dark mode. And if dark mode is false, we apply this code, which removes the dark class, switching back to the light mode. To ensure that this effect runs whenever dark mode changes, we add dark mode to the dependency array of useEffect. So we have to pass here dark mode. The dependency array tells React when to rerun the effect. Since we only want this effect to run when dark mode changes, we pass dark mode in the dependency array. Without this, the effect would only run once when the component mounts, and the theme wouldn't update dynamically. At this stage, dark mode activates and deactivates dynamically, but we still need a way to toggle it when the user clicks a button. Now, we need to create a function that will allow users to toggle between dark and light modes. Let's go ahead and add the following function inside the theme provider. So right after user-defined hook, I'm going to create a new variable, and it's going to be toggle dark mode. We need here an arrow function, and we have to return set dark mode. Actually, this is what we want here, prev, and then returning not prev. Alright, so let me explain how this function works. It inverts the current state. If dark mode is false, it becomes true. If dark mode is true, it becomes false. This function will be triggered when the user clicks a dark mode toggle button. Now, we need to make this function available to the rest of the application by passing it to the value. We need here toggle dark mode. Any component that needs to toggle dark mode, we can now access this function directly from the context. Now, we have everything in place to manage dark mode. The final step is to export a custom hook to make it easier to use these contexts. In other words, to simplify accessing our theme context, we create a helper function. So down below, I'm going to insert export. Then we need use theme, which will be equal to an arrow function. And here I'm going to return use context. And inside here we need theme context. Let's import. Actually, here we have use context. If you don't see here use context, then import it manually. Otherwise, you will get an error. So use context allows components to consume the dark mode state and toggle dark mode function without manually importing the context. Instead of writing use context, theme context every time, we can simply call use theme. Now, whenever we need access to dark mode, we can extract dark mode and toggle dark mode function from use theme. Now that we have successfully set up the theme context API, the next step is to connect it to our application so that all components can access and use dark mode. First, we need to import theme provider inside app.jsx file to make the theme state available throughout the entire application. So let's save this file and go to the app.jsx file. Here we need to import theme provider from context theme context. Again, theme provider wraps the entire application, ensuring that every component inside it has access to the dark mode state and toggle function. Without wrapping our app inside theme provider, components like Navbar, hero, services, or other UI elements wouldn't be able to toggle or read the theme state. Now, we need to wrap the entire app inside theme provider. So here I'm going to add theme provider and then wrap the entire content with it. Now that we have successfully provided the theme context, the next step is to use it inside the Navbar, where we will program a toggle button for dark mode. So let's go ahead and navigate to the navbar.jsx file, and I'm going to import use theme from context theme context. As you remember, use theme is a custom hook we created to simplify accessing theme context. It allows us to easily extract dark mode and toggle dark mode without manually calling use context every time. Now, inside Navbar, we need to destructure the dark mode state and also the toggle dark mode function from the use theme. Inside here, we need destructuring. As you can see, the compiler suggests the code. We have here dark mode, toggle dark mode, and use theme function. So, as you remember, dark mode stores the current theme state, true for dark mode and false for light mode. As for the toggle dark mode function, it allows us to switch the theme when the user clicks the toggle button. Now, let's add the click event to the dark mode toggle button. To toggle dark mode, we need to add an onClick event handler to the icon inside the Navbar. So here we have the icon, and I'm going to add here onClick, and we have to pass here toggle dark mode. whenever the toggle icon is clicked, the toggle dark mode function will switch the theme state from false to true, or vice versa. So right now, our theme toggles on click, but nothing visually changes because we haven't applied any Tailwind dark mode styles. To fix this, we need to modify the classes of the wrapper div in the app.jsx file. So here, I'm going to add, let's actually add here dark. And then I'm going to add the default background color, which is going to be white. Now, if we go to the browser and click the dark mode toggle icon, nothing happens yet because Tailwind doesn't recognize the dark class. To enable Tailwind's dark mode functionality, we need to modify index.css file and add the following line. So here, I'm going to add custom variant dark, and here we need ampersand where dot dark dots dark with a star. So actually we need here dash. So this custom Tailwind variant ensures that the dark classes work when the dark class is added to the HTML. By default, Tailwind doesn't detect class changes dynamically, so we need this line to tell it to look for the dark class and apply the dark styles accordingly. In the previous Tailwind CSS versions, we were configuring the dark mode functionality in the Tailwind config file, but now since 4th version is released, we configure it in the CSS file. Now, if we go to the browser, we should see the following behavior. By default, the background is white, and clicking the sun icon, actually nothing happens here. Well, let's check the console. So we don't have any errors. Okay, let's go back to the VS Code and check this line. Actually, I think we need here space. Let's go back to the browser and click the sun icon. So as you can see, now it toggles the background between white and dark gray. So currently the toggle button always shows the same icon, which is the sun, regardless of the theme. Let's modify the icon so that in light mode it shows a moon icon, and in dark mode it shows a sun icon. To do this, we have to modify the class name of the icon inside the Navbar. So let's go back to the Navbar.jsx file. I'm going to modify the class name. Let's cut those classes. Then we need here braces with backticks. Let's paste back here those classes. Now we need here $sign with color braces. We have to check if dark mode is true or false. If it is true, then we need this class bx sun, and if it is false, then we need bx moon. So again, if dark mode is true, the icon becomes a sun, and if dark mode is false, the icon becomes a moon. Let's go back to the browser. Right now we see here the sun icon. If we click it, then we'll get here the moon icon. Okay, so the background updates correctly between light and dark mode, and the icon changes dynamically between sun and moon when toggling. Now that we have successfully implemented dark mode toggling, the next step is to refine the UI by improving color transitions and making sure that all elements respond smoothly to the theme changes. First, let's make sure that the text colors transition smoothly when switching between the light and dark modes. Navigate to app.jsx file and modify the text color classes. I'm going to add here text red 500, and then we need dark text yellow 500. Next we need transition colors and duration 500. Let's go back to the browser. So now as you can see, we have here this nice and cool smooth effect. Let's go back to the VS Code. Now we need to remove any hard-coded text colors from the hero section and replace them with dynamic classes. First, I'm going to take care of the H1 heading elements. So as you can see, we have here text yellow 500. I'm going to remove this class at all. This ensures that text inherits the default theme-based colors instead of being fixed. Next, we need to remove any predefined color classes and transition settings from social media links. Here we need to get rid of those classes and replace them with dark, hover, text white, and then we need hover, text gray, 900. Also, we need to remove color from the bouncing text. I'm going to remove this color at all. The bouncing text should also adapt to the theme instead of having a fixed color. Let's go to the browser and click the icon. Now we can see the background and text color transition smoothly instead of changing abruptly. The social media links now properly adapt to dark mode on hover. However, there is a small issue. The hover effect on social media icons no longer has a smooth transition. Let's go ahead and fix that. To restore the smooth hover transition, we need to add the following classes to the social media links. I'm going to add here transition, colors, and duration 500. Let's go back to the browser. Now, when hovering over social media icons, the color transition is back and it happens smoothly. However, there is another issue. When we switch between the themes, the color change lags slightly. This is because two transitions are happening at the same time. To fix the delay, we need to explicitly set text colors when applying transition colors. So here we need to add text red 500 and then dark text yellow 500. Let's go back and check. Now theme switching feels instant while still keeping smooth color transitions. Everything is working perfectly. Now let's refine the Navbar's colors so that it properly adapts to the theme changes. I'm going to go to the navbar.jsx file and remove background color. This ensures that the background inherits the theme-based colors. Then remove text color from the logo link and modify the icon, this element. So I'm going to let's add here dark. As for the default color, it's going to be text gray 600. Let's go to the browser. Now the logo and navbar elements update smoothly when switching themes. Next, let's make sure that the navigation items properly reflect the theme. I'm going to modify the classes of navigation links. So we need here dark, then text red 500. Next, we need to change the background of the span elements. So we need here dark, and then we need PG red 500. For the services and contact, we need here dark. Actually, these are the span elements. Then I'm going to add here the default color. It's going to be PG gray 600. And then we need to change the links. So let's add here dark. And then the default color is going to be text gray 600. Let's go to the browser and switch theme to the light one. So as you can see, everything works fine. Okay, next we need to style the button and also the bio text. Let's go ahead and modify the classes of the button element. So we need hero section. Let's find button. So here we have it. I'm going to add here dark. And then we need the default background color, and it's going to be gray 900. Then let's find text. So it's going to be dark. As for the light mode, we need here text white. And also I'm going to add here transition colors, followed by duration 500. Now, as you can see, the background of the button and also the colors of the text and icon are changed. So everything works perfectly. Okay, now we have to take care of the bio text, I mean this text, which is not quite visible on light mode. So let's go back to the hero section and find here the paragraph. Actually, we need the div element, which is the wrapper of the paragraph. So here I'm going to add dark. And then we need text gray 900. Let's go back to the browser. So the BO text now updates seamlessly when switching between the light and dark modes. Next, we have to style the first letter of the paragraph to make the first letter of the bio text match the theme. So let's go ahead and update the classes. I'm going to add here dark. Now I'm going to copy this code, paste it here, and change the color. We need red. Let's check the browser. So as you can see, the first letter changes color dynamically when toggling between themes. Okay, right now the custom scroll bar remains yellow in both light and dark modes. Let's update it so that it changes colors based on the theme. We need to modify the default scroll bar colors in index.css file. So as you remember, we have here the styles for scroll bar. So first I'm going to change the color here. It's going to be EF. Then we need 4, 4, 4, 4. Then I'm going to change the color here as well. We need here DC 26, 26. Next, I'm going to duplicate this code. Let's get rid of border radius. I'm going to add here dark class. And then change the colors. We need here FBB, F24, and then we need here F5, 9, E0B. Let's go to the browser. So when we have dark mode, the scroll bar is yellow. When we switch to light mode, then you will see that the scroll bar will become red. Alright, now that dark mode is fully functional and visually polished, the final step is to ensure that the user's theme preference is saved even after refreshing the page. Right now, if we switch to dark mode and then reload the page, the theme resets back to light mode because the dark mode state is not being stored anywhere. Before implementing local storage, let's briefly explain what it is and why we need it. Local storage is a built-in feature in web browsers that allows us to store key value pairs persistently. Unlike session storage, which is cleared when the page is closed, local storage persists even after refreshing or closing the browser. This makes it perfect for storing user preferences such as dark mode settings. To see local storage in action, I'm going to open Developer Tools. Then we have to go to Application. And here you see local storage. So right now, it is empty for us. Currently, nothing is stored because we haven't implemented it yet. But once we do, you will see a dark mode value appearing here. If we navigate to the original project and inspect the page, let's go to Application. I'm going to clear it out. Let's toggle. So as you can see, we have here dark mode with the false value. Once we toggle, then we'll get here dark mode true. Alright, so that's the way how local storage works in the browser. Let's go back to the VS Code. I'm going to update the default value of dark mode so that it checks local storage when the app loads. Let's go to theme context.jsx file. As you can see, we have here dark mode state variable with the default value false. I'm going to get rid of it and insert here a callback function. So we need to return here JSON.parse. Then we need local storage.getItem, dark mode, and again false value. So the code is correct. Let's use it. So let me explain what's going on here. The local storage.getItem retrieves the saved theme preference from local storage. JSON.parse converts the string true or false back into a Boolean value. Then we have OR operator followed by the false value. If there is no saved value, it defaults to false, which is light mode. So the first time the user visits the site, there will be no value in local storage, so dark mode defaults to false. Once the user toggles dark mode, we will store the preference so that it persists after page reloads. Now that we are reading from local storage, we also need to update local storage whenever dark mode is toggled. Inside the useFact hook in theme context, we need to add the following line. We need here local storage. Well, we have here a suggestion. Let's go ahead and use it. I think we need here not dark, but dark modes. Okay, so I think now it is correct. So this line is responsible for storing the user's dark mode preference in local storage so that it persists even after they refresh the page or reopen the browser. Since local storage only supports storing strings, we cannot directly save a Boolean value like true or false. Instead, we need to convert the Boolean into a string before storing it. This is where JSON.stringify comes in. It takes the value of dark mode, which is either true or false, and converts it into a string representation, true or false. Every time the dark mode state changes, whether the user clicks the toggle button to switch to dark mode or back to light mode, this useFact hook runs and updates local storage with the new value. Alright, now we can go back to the browser, open Developer Tools, go to Application. We need here local storage. So now as you can see, we have here key value pairs. Dark mode with value false, because right now we have here light mode. If we switch to dark mode, then we'll get here dark mode with the true value. All right, let's refresh the page. So now we have here still the dark mode. If we switch dark to light and refresh the page, we'll get here the light mode. Okay, so we have successfully implemented the dark mode feature, allowing users to toggle between light and dark themes seamlessly. The theme preference is now stored in local storage, ensuring that the selected mode persists even after refreshing the page or reopening the browser. Alright, so we have successfully completed the hero section, including the interactive dark mode feature. It's time to move forward and build the next important part of our portfolio, the services section. Before we start coding, let's quickly navigate back to the original project and take a detailed look at the services section. Here we have a neatly organized grid layout that displays different skills or services we provide, each with its own icon, title, description, and smooth hover effect. This section clearly showcases your expertise, making it easy for visitors to quickly understand your skill set and what you have to offer professionally. On hover, we see the project links appearing depending on whether the skill card is in the first row or not. To create this part, we will start by generating a new component dedicated specifically to the services section. So inside the components folder, I'm going to create new file, services.jsx. Then inside here, we need to create a React functional component using RAFCE shortcut. Then let's go to the app.jsx file and duplicate this line of code. We need here services. And finally, we have to pass the services component here. Now, if we go to the browser, we can see the text services. So the section is successfully rendered. This component will include the specific services we offer provided with the skill cards. This content is already prepared for us in our project's index.js data file. Let's briefly take a look at the data structure we're going to use. Open index.js file and find the skill cards array. So this array contains detailed information for each service or skill we want to showcase. As you can see, each object within the skill cards array has the following properties. We have here icon. It defines the class for the icon from box icons representing each skill visually. Then we have title. It identifies the skill or service we provide. Next we have description, a detailed description explaining the specific skill or service. Next we have project count, the number of project links we should display on hover. And then we have hover position. It indicates the direction from which the hover animation will appear for large and small screens. We will use this array to dynamically render each skill as an individual card, creating a responsive, interactive layout in our services section. Now, let's go ahead and import this array into our services.jsx file. I'm going to import skill cards from data/index. To begin structuring the services section visually, I'm going to add some classes to the wrapper development. I'm going to add here classes flex, then flex column. Next, actually, we need here flex column. Then we need justify center, followed by items center. Next, we need px4. Then Excel breakpoint py0 and then py10 for smaller screens. Instead of text services, I'm going to insert here h2 heading elements and then add to it some classes. We need here text for Excel. Then we need font lights. Next, I'm going to define margin bottom. It's going to be 32. Then we need Excel breakpoint, margin top 0. Then we need margin top 12 for smaller screens. As for the content of the heading element, it's going to be skill set. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, we have here skill set, the heading element. Actually, I think we are missing here the height. We need minimum height screen. I mean 100 viewport height. Let's go back to the browser. All right. So we can see our skill set heading nicely centered, clearly visible, and properly spaced vertically. Now we are ready to move forward and add the actual service items. We need to display our services in a nice responsive grid. To do this, let's add another div element immediately below the heading. I mean below this h2 heading element. So we need div elements and we have to add here some classes. We need width full. Then we need Excel breakpoints. Width is going to be 900 pixels. Then we need LG breakpoint and the width is going to be 800 pixels. Next we need MD breakpoints. The width is going to be 600. Actually, we need here square brackets, 600 pixels. Then I'm going to define the grid layout. We need grid. Then LG breakpoints. So for larger screen sizes, we need 3 columns. Therefore, I'm going to add here grid cols 3. As for the smaller screens, I mean the medium and smaller screens, we need grid columns 1. Then we need LG breakpoint. The gap is going to be 12. Next, we need gap 18 for smaller screens. Then we need Excel breakpoint, margin bottom 0. As for the smaller screens, we need margin bottom equal to 16. Alright, so now that we have prepared our layout and imported the data, the next step is to render each skill card dynamically using JavaScript. To do this efficiently, we'll use JavaScript's built-in map method. So let's go ahead and add here curly braces. We need skill cards followed by map method. Here we need a callback function with two parameters, card and index. So this map method will iterate through every object in the skill cards array and render JSX for each individual skill card. Each iteration gives us access to the current card object containing the properties such as icon, title, and description. The second parameter, index, gives us the current index of the card in the array. So here I'm going to open div elements and I'm going to add here key prop, which is going to be index. Then we need some classes. LG breakpoint max width is going to be 280 pixels. Then we need MD breakpoints. Max width is going to be 400 pixels. And then for smaller screens, we need max width equal to 320 pixels. Next, I'm going to define a width full. Then we need MX auto to center the element. Next, we need rounded SM. Next, I'm going to use rings and shadows. So we need ring 2, followed by ring gray 400/20. It is the 20% opacity. Then we need shadow MD. Then shadow gray 700/20, again 20% of the opacity. Then inside here I'm going to open another div element with the classes padding 3. Then we need background gray 200 for light mode, and then we need dark background gray 800. Next we need transition, colors, and duration 500. Inside these developments, I'm going to let's go to the browser and check the results. So as you can see, we have here 6 cards, and right now they are empty. So they look pretty nice on light mode as well. Let's go back to the VS Code and add here the content. First we need elements with the classes. Actually, we need here to render different icons for different skill cards. Therefore, I'm going to open here curly braces followed by the backticks. So here we need $sign with curly braces, then card.icon. Then we need MD breakpoint. Text is going to be 4XL. Then we need text 3XL for smaller screens. Next we need text gray 900. It is for light mode. As for the dark mode, we need here text white. Also, let's add here transition. Well, we need here transition, colors, and duration 500. Now, if we go to the browser and check the results, actually, we don't see here any icons. Let's go back. So we need here icon, not icon. Let's go back to the browser. So we can see that the skill cards are displayed correctly, each card containing an icon. However, at this point, we're missing 2 essential pieces of information, the title and the description of each skill. Let's go ahead and add these elements to complete each card's content. So here I'm going to add H3 heading elements with the following classes. We need MD breakpoint, text is going to be 2XL, then we need text XL for smaller screens, then fonts is going to be bold. Also we need margin Y4, followed by text red 500 for light mode, and for dark mode we need text yellow 500, and again we need transition, colors with duration 500. As the content of the heading elements, I'm going to insert card.title. Then after H3 heading elements, we need paragraph. Let's add some classes. We need text gray 900. It is for light mode. Then we need dark mode, and the text is going to be white. Then we need empty breakpoints. Height is going to be 28. Then for smaller screens, we need height equal to 24. Then we need empty breakpoint. Text size is going to be base. And for smaller screens, we need text SM. Font is going to be light. Then I'm going to use overflow Y auto. And again, use custom scroll bar. As you remember, we created custom scroll bar for the paragraph in the hero section. Let's use it here as well. So we need custom scroll bar. Then we need PR2, padding right. And finally, we need transition colors and duration 500. Now, when we go back to the browser, actually, we are missing here the text of the paragraph because we need to add here card.description. Okay, so now the result looks much more complete and informative. Each card displays the appropriate title clearly and has a nice and concise description beneath it. Also, notice that the scroll bar appears nicely when the description content is too long. This allows users to easily read the content without overflowing. Next, let's focus on enhancing our skill cards with an interactive and user-friendly hover effect. Right now, when we hover over the cards, nothing special happens, but we want to provide users with additional information dynamically. Specifically, we want to show links to our projects when a user hovers over a card, giving them quick access to examples of our work related to each skill. To make this effect more user-friendly and visually intuitive, we'll implement it carefully based on the card's position in the grid. For cards located in the upper row, the project links should appear neatly at the top, making them easily accessible. Conversely, for cards positioned in the bottom row, we'll display these links conveniently at the bottom. Now, let's move on to making our hover effect more dynamic by positioning the project links correctly depending on the placement of the skill cards. Right now, we don't have any structure for these links, so the first step is to create a new development that will hold them. Let's go back to the VS Code, and right after this div element, create new div with the classes width full. Then we need position absolute. And next we need left position equal to 0. As the content of the div element, let's insert here projects. Then go to the browser. Actually, we need position relative for the parent element. This element here, we need a relative. Let's go back to the browser. So we can see the word projects appears, but it just sits there at the default position. The problem is that right now all the text elements are aligned the same way, but we need them to adjust dynamically based on where the card is located in the grid. We don't want every project link to appear at the same position inside its card. Instead, we need a smart way to decide whether it should show up at the top or bottom of each card. To do this, let's go back to our index.js file and take a closer look at the skill cards array. So you will notice that each object inside this array has a property called hover position, which itself contains two properties, large and small. Large defines the hover position on large screens, and small defines the hover position on smaller screens. Since we are currently working on large screen layouts, we are only interested in the large property for now. If you examine the data, you will find that the first three cards have their hover position set to bottom, and the remaining three cards have their position set to top on larger screens. Now, to dynamically determine where the project's text should be placed, we'll create a helper function inside our services component. Inside here, we need to create a new function, and it's going to be getPosition class. We need here card as the parameter. Then we have to add here new variable, and it's going to be position, which should be equal to card.hover position dot large. And then we have to return position equal to bottom, followed by a ternary operator. Here we need bottom 0 and then top 0. So let me explain how this function works. It takes one parameter, the card object that we are mapping over. It accesses the hover position.large property inside that object. If the value is bottom, it returns the Tailwind class bottom 0, positioning the text at the bottom of the card. Otherwise, it returns top 0, which moves the text to the top of the card. Now, instead of manually writing top 0 or bottom 0 in our JSX, we can just call getPosition class function, and it will automatically decide the correct placement for each card. Now, let's modify the class name of the developments. This development. I'm going to cut those classes. Then we need curly braces with backticks. Let's paste back the classes. And here, I'm going to add $sign with curly braces. Then we need to call getPosition class function, and we have to pass here card. So this means that when React renders the skill cards, if the card's hover position.large is bottom, Tailwind's bottom 0 class will be applied. If it were top, the class would be top 0, automatically adjusting the placement. Now let's jump over to the browser and see how it looks. The project's text is correctly positioned at the bottom for the first 3 cards in the upper row, and at the top for the rest of the 3 cards in the bottom row. Now, let's continue refining the hover effect by improving the layout of the project links inside each skill card. So far, we have successfully positioned the project's text dynamically at the top or bottom based on the card's placement in the grid. Now we will focus on styling it properly and adding project links in a structured manner. First, we need to modify the development that contains the project's text by adding some spacing and structural classes to ensure everything looks clean and well positioned inside the card. Now, let's go back to the VS Code and add some other classes to the development. We need here flex column, then we need gap y5 and py4. Now we need to replace the project's text with the heading. Let's add here h2 heading elements and add some classes to this element. We need text TXL, then we need text center. Also, we have to change the color of the text. On light mode, it's going to be text gray 900. Then we need dark mode, text white. Also, we need fonts light and tracking white. The content is going to be projects. So at this point, if we check the browser, we can see that the project's heading is now properly formatted and centered inside each skill card. However, we are still missing a crucial part, the project links themselves. Right now we only have the heading, but we need to add a set of clickable project links beneath or above the heading, depending on where the card is positioned in the grid. Before that, I'm going to check the light modes. So as you can see, everything looks good. Now, if we take a look at the original projects, we can see that the alignment of heading and project links is different based on the row the card is in. For the upper row, the heading comes first, followed by the links below. For the bottom row of cards, the project links come first, followed by the heading beneath them. To replicate this exact behavior, we need to conditionally render these elements based on the card's hover position.large value. Let's go ahead and add the following code above the heading inside our JSX. We need here card.hover position.large equal to top. Then we need AND operator, and then I'm going to insert here a div element. So we check here if card.hoverPosition.large is equal to top. This ensures that the project links are displayed above the heading only for bottom row cards. Now here I'm going to add some classes. We need flex and then justify between. Inside the div elements, I'm going to open curly braces. Then we need array method. I'm going to insert here. Actually, that's what we need here. I'm going to add here parentheses. So we use here the map method to generate multiple project links. We take advantage of card.projectCount to determine how many links should be created for each card. As you remember, project count is a property from the objects in the skill cards array. Next we have here array method. It creates an array of that length, allowing us to iterate through it dynamically. Now inside here, I'm going to create link elements. We need keyprop with the value index. And then I'm going to add here classes, text LG, then background red 500 for light mode. Then we need dark mode. Background is going to be yellow 500. Then we need width equal to 10. Also, I'm going to use aspect square. It means that the width and height will be always same. Next we need grid, followed by place items, center. It helps us to center the content of the element. Next we need text whites, rounded, full, and transition colors. Inside here, I'm going to pass the following expression. We need index +1. So this expression represents the project number starting from 1. Since the index is a 0 base and we don't need the project link with 0, we add here 1. Now, if we check the browser, we can see for bottom row, the project links appear above the heading, which is exactly how it should be. The project links are evenly spaced, visually clean, and properly positioned. However, we don't see any project links for the upper row, and we have to fix that. We need to replicate the same approach for upper row cards. We need to place the project links below the heading instead of above it. To do that, we can simply copy this entire code, paste it here. We need to change the condition. Instead of top, we need bottom. And actually, that's it. The only difference between this code and the previous one is that here we're checking for card.hoverPosition.large equals to bottom, which means that the project links will appear beneath the heading for upper row cards. Now, if we go to the browser, we can see for upper row cards, the heading appears first, followed by the project links below. And for bottom row cards, the project links appear first, followed by the heading below. Now it's time to bring the hover effect to life and ensure that everything works as expected. In this step, we'll make sure that when a user hovers over a skill card, the project links appear dynamically in the correct position, either at the top or bottom of the card, depending on the layout. We'll also make sure that the layout behaves correctly on both large and small screens. To determine where the project link should appear on hover, we need to create a new helper function. And instead of writing it from scratch, I'm going to duplicate this function here. Let's change the name. It's going to be get hover position class, and here we need card hover position large, and then return position equal to bottom. The first option is going to be bottom full. As for the second one, it's going to be top full. So what this function does is that it checks the hover position property of each card. If the position is bottom, the project links will start below the card and move up on hover. If the position is top, the project links will start above the card and move down on hover. Next, we need a way to track which card is being hovered. And we do this by creating a new state variable. So I'm going to create here new state variable. It's going to be hovered card index. Then we need set hovered card index, and I'm going to get rid of React from here. Let's import useState here, and the default value is going to be null. So without this state, all cards would have the hover effect applied at the same time, which is not what we want. By tracking the index of the currently hovered card, we can apply the hover effect only to that specific card. When no card is hovered, hovered card index will be null, meaning that the project links will remain hidden. Now that we have this state variable, we need to apply onMouse enter and onMouse leave event handlers to each card. So down below, we have to find the card, actually this element here. I'm going to add here on mouse enter, and I'm going to pass here a callback function. And as you can see, we have here set hovered card index with the value index. When the user hovers over a card, hovered card index is updated to store that card's index, triggering the hover effect. Next, as you can see, we need onMouse leave, then set hovered card index with the value null. When the user moves the mouse away, hovered card index is reset to null, hiding the hover effect. Now that we have the hovered card index, we can use it to dynamically apply the hover effect. I'm going to modify the class name in the project links div, like so. I mean this div element here. So we need a conditional statement. Let's add hovered index, actually hovered card index. If it is equal to index, then we need AND operator, and we have to pass here $, curly braces, and as you can see, get hovered position class with the value card. Okay, so I think everything's correct. So if the current card is being hovered, get hover position class is applied, moving the project links into view. If no card is hovered, the project links remain hidden. Let's go to the browser. Now when we hover over a skill card, the project links will smoothly appear in the correct position. So now we need to make this effect a bit smoother. So I'm going to add here transition all with the duration 300. So now the project links appear smoothly in the correct position. Okay, so by default, we don't want the project links to be visible. We need to make sure they stay behind the card until hovered. And to do this, we will add here z, actually minus z10. This ensures that the project links stay behind the card unless the hover effect is triggered. And we also add class isolate to the card itself. So we need to add here class isolate. This prevents the z-index from being affected by parent elements. Without isolate, the hover effect might not work properly because the project links could be affected by stacking context issues. Let's go to the browser. So at this point, hovering over a skill card correctly moves the project links into view. When the mouse leaves, the project links smoothly disappear. So the hover effect works perfectly. Everything looks great on large screens, but if we shrink the window, we notice an issue. So on medium and small screens, the grid layout changes to a single column layout. Since there is only one column, there are no more top or bottom rows. In this case, all project links should appear at the bottom of the cards. Before we fix this issue, let's first address another problem. You may have noticed that when scrolling, the navbar ends up behind the cards. To fix this, I'm going to increase the z-index property of the navbar wrapper. Let's add here z50. Then in the hero section, I'm going to add to the wrapper div z-index property. It's going to be, let's say, 10. Now let's go back to the browser. So we still have the same problem. Actually, we need here position relative. Otherwise, the z-index property won't work. Let's go back to the browser. So now the problem is fixed. The only thing we need is to define the background for the navbar. We forgot that. So I'm going to add here. Actually, we need bg white, then dark bg gray 900. Then we need transition, colors, and duration 500. Let's go to the browser. So now, as you can see, the problem is fixed. Navbar stays above the services section, and the stacking issue is now completely fixed. Actually, I think that we need more space between the cards, so let's fix that issue. I'm going to increase the gap. Let's make it 24. Well, we need more space. Let's set gap to, let's say, 52. Okay, so now it's better. So to detect whether the screen is large or small, we need to create another state variable. Let's go to the, actually we are in the services component, and we have to create here new state variable. It's going to be is large screen. Then we need set is large screen, and the value is going to be false. So on large screens, we want the original hover behavior, and on smaller screens, we want the project links to always appear at the top. We now need to check the screen size whenever the window resizes. We need to implement this logic inside the useEffect hook. The reason we use useEffect hook is that it allows us to execute code whenever the component renders or when specific dependencies change. In our case, we want to check the screen size when the component mounts and whenever the user resizes the window. First, I'm going to import useEffect hook, and then I'm going to create a useEffect hook here. So we need here curly brace, then dependency array, and the parenthesis. Next, inside the useEffect hook, we define a function called check screen size, which will determine whether the screen width is 1020 pixels or larger. So inside here, I'm going to create new function, and it's going to be, as I said, check screen size. So here, I'm going to insert set is large screen, and as the value, as you can see, we need window.innerWidth greater than 1024 pixels. So we use window.innerWidth to get the current width of the browser window. If the width is larger than 1024 pixels, we set isLargeScreen to true, meaning we will apply the large screen layout and behavior. If the width is less than 1024 pixels, we set isLargeScreen to false, meaning we will apply the small screen layout. This ensures that our hover behavior and project link positioning adjust correctly based on screen size. Next, we need to call this function immediately so that it checks the screen size as soon as the component mounts. So here we need to call check screen size function. This ensures that the correct layout is applied right from the start without needing to wait for a window resize event. Right now, our check screen size function runs once when the component mounts, But what happens if the user resizes the window? Currently, the screen size is only checked on page load, which means if the user starts on a large screen, the layout will be set accordingly. However, if they resize to a smaller screen, the layout will not update dynamically. To fix this, we need to listen for changes in screen size using the resize event. Inside our useEffect hook, we will add the following. And actually, the Copilot already suggests the code. We need here window.addEventListener. The event is resize, and then we call check screen size function. So whenever the user resizes the browser window, the check screen size function runs again, checking whether the screen is still large or has become small. This ensures that our layout automatically updates based on screen size changes. Now that we've added a resize event listener, we need to remove it when the component unmounts. Without proper cleanup, every time the component re-renders, a new event listener would be added, leading to performance issues and memory leaks. To prevent this, we return a cleanup function from useEffect. So here, I'm going to return, and as you can see, we need here window.removeEventListener with the resize event and with the function called checkScreenSize. So, do we need this cleanup? React components mount and unmount dynamically as the user navigates through the app. If we don't remove the resize event listener, React will keep adding new event listeners every time the component re-renders. Over time, this can slow down performance and cause unexpected behavior. By removing the event listener when the component unmounts, we make sure that we only have one active listener at a time. Now that we have isLargeScreen working correctly, we need to update both helper functions so that they use the correct positioning based on the screen size. Previously, these functions only checked card.hoverPosition.large, and now we need to modify them to use isLargeScreen dynamically. So here I'm going to add isLargeScreen with a question mark. If this is true, then we need card.hoverPosition.large, and if it is false, then we need this one, card.hoverPosition.small. Let's copy this code and paste here as well. So if isLargeScreen is true, we use the large screen positioning, and if isLargeScreen is false, we use the small screen positioning. As you remember, these large and small properties come from the index.js file, where we have hover position property, and it includes both large and small properties. Alright, now we need to update the conditions that determine when and where the project links appear. For the upper row on large screens, we need here is large screen followed by the and operator. This ensures that on large screens, if hover position.large is top, the project links appear above the card. On smaller screens, this condition is false, so the links won't appear at the top. For bottom row and small screens, we need the following. Actually, I'm going to wrap this condition with parentheses. Then here we need another parenthesis. Let's insert here not is large screen. Then we need or operator followed by is large screen and this condition. Okay, so hopefully it is correct. I think so. If is large screen equals to false, the condition always applies, meaning that on small screens, project links always appear at the top. If is large screen is true, the condition only applies if hover position.large is bottom, meaning the project links are placed at the bottom for bottom row cards. Now, let's go to the browser. So, as you can see, the hover effect works perfectly. The project links appear on top of the card for all 6 skill cards. Now that we have successfully completed the services section, now it's time to move on and create our next section, which is going to be the contact section. This section is essential because it allows potential clients, collaborators, or employers to easily reach out. Before we start building, let's take a moment to examine the original project and describe what we are about to implement. In the original project, the contact section is a full screen layout, ensuring that it occupies the entire viewport. It has a heading at the top that invites visitors to connect. Below the heading, there is a form with 2 input fields, one for entering an email address and one for writing a message. At the bottom of the form, there is a submit button labeled Stay Connected. The entire section follows the dark light mode theme, seamlessly adapting based on the selected mode. To keep our project well structured, we will create a separate component for the contact section. So I'm going to create a new file here. It's going to be contact.jsx. Actually, we need here JSX. Then inside here, I'm going to create a new React functional component using RAFCE. Let's go to the, actually, I'm going to close those files. Then I'm going to go to the app.jsx file. I'm going to duplicate this line of code. We need here contact. And then I'm going to nest the contact component here. If we check the browser, we will see the word contact displayed, confirming that our component is correctly linked. Now let's replace the placeholder context text with the actual layout. I'm going to get rid of it. Then I'm going to add here classes. We need hscreen, 100 viewport height. Then we need flex column, justify center, and items center to center the content of the section. Inside here we need h2 heading elements with the classes text for Excel. Then we need font lights. Next I'm going to define empty breakpoint. Margin bottom is going to be 32, and then we need margin bottom for smaller screens. It's going to be 24. Let's add here connect with me. After h2 heading elements, I'm going to open form. Let's get rid of action attribute for now. I'm going to add here some classes. So we need flex column, then space y8, and then we need lg space y12. I'm going to write this class here. Now inside the form elements, I'm going to insert inputs with the type email. Then we need placeholder. It's going to be email, and also I'm going to add here some classes. We need empty breakpoints. The width is going to be 500 pixels. Then we need width equal to 330 pixels for smaller screens. Then I'm going to define height, which is going to be 13. Now we need padding left. It's going to be 3. Then text LG. Outline is going to be 0. Next we need border, followed by border red 500. And then we need dark mode, border yellow 500. Also we need placeholder gray 600, and dark mode placeholder yellow 500. And I'm going to add here 50% of the opacity. Finally we need transition colors, and then we need duration 500. Let's go to the browser. So we have here the heading connect with me and one input element. Next we need to add a text area and also the submit button. I'm going to open text area. Then inside here, we need placeholder attributes. It's going to be message. And then I'm going to add here some classes. Actually, let's copy those classes from here and paste them here. So what we need is to add here minimum heights. Let's add it here. We need minimum heights. It's going to be 100 pixels. Then we need max heights, and it's going to be 1200 pixels. And also I'm going to add resize Y. So we will be able to resize the text area only vertically, not horizontally. And then let's add here padding 3. Okay, so I think that's it about the text area. Let's go to the browser. So we have here text area, and as you can see, we can resize it only vertically. All right, so next I'm going to copy the input elements and paste it here. The type is going to be submit. Then I'm going to modify the classes. So we need width, then height. Then I'm going to get rid of borders with placeholders. Let's get rid of. And add here background red 500 for, actually we need here red. It is for light modes. As for the dark mode, we need text, not text but background with yellow 500. Then we need text white for light modes. On dark mode, we need text to be gray 900. Then we need uppercase. Fonts is going to be extra bold. Also, we need cursor pointer. Then I'm going to add here tracking white. And finally, we need shadows. So we need here shadow empty. And then the color is going to be shadow gray 700/20. It is the opacity. All right, so I think that's it. Actually, we don't need the placeholder attribute. Instead, we need value, and it's going to be stay connected. Let's go to the browser. So the contact section is now fully implemented, providing a clean and professional layout. Everything is well structured, responsive. If we make the browser smaller, you will see that it's responsive. And it seamlessly adapts with light and dark modes. Now that we have completed the contact section, the next step is to take care of the navigation circles, which are placed on the right side of each section. These circles serve as visual indicators highlighting the currently active section as the user scrolls through the page. If we take a look at the original project, we can see that these circles are aligned vertically on the right side of the screen. These are 3 circles in total, one for each section, I mean home, services, and contact. The key feature of these circles is that they dynamically change their color depending on the active section. When a section is in view, the corresponding circle is highlighted, while the others remain in a neutral state. To keep our project well organized, let's go ahead and create a new component. It's going to be navigation circles.jsx. Then we need here a functional component. Now that our component is ready, we need to import and include it inside all 3 sections. I mean hero, services, and contact. Let's go to the hero.jsx file. I'm going to duplicate this code. Let's add here navigation circles. Then I'm going to copy, actually before we copy it, I'm going to insert it down below. Let's add here navigation circles. Then I'm going to copy these import statements, go to the services.jsx file and insert it here. We need navigation circles here. And finally, let's go to the contact.jsx file. I'm going to add here import, and then we need navigation circles. So if we check the browser, then we will see here navigation circles in all three sections. All right, now let's replace the placeholder text with the actual navigation circles. Inside this component, I'm going to update the JSX structure. So I'm going to get rid of this text and add some classes to the div elements. We need here flex. Then I'm going to define height. It's going to be 300 pixels. Then we need width, and it's going to be 1 pixel. Next, I'm going to add here background red, 500 for light mode, and then we need dark mode. It's going to be PG yellow, 500. Then we need position absolute. Right position is going to be 12. Then we need flex column. Actually, let's grab this class and paste it here. It will be more accurate. Next, we need justify between, followed by item center. And then I'm going to add here transition colors, and duration is going to be 500. Inside the div element, I'm going to open another div with the following classes. We need width 5, then aspect square to make the height and width equal. Next, we need border. Border is going to be red, 500 for the light mode, and for dark mode we need here border yellow, 500. Next, I'm going to add here rounded full to make this element circle, and then we need PG gray, 300. And finally, transition colors with duration 500. Let's go to the browser. So we can see that a thin vertical line is placed on the right side. One gray circle is displayed within the line, but there is only one circle instead of 3. Since we need 3 circles, let's go ahead and duplicate the div element twice so that we have 3 circles in total. I'm going to duplicate it twice. Now all 3 circles are correctly positioned inside the vertical line. They are equally spaced. However, all 3 circles have the same gray background, meaning none of them indicate the active section yet. Now let's fix that by dynamically highlighting the active section. To dynamically highlight the active section, we need to pass a prop to each navigation circles component inside our 3 sections. So let's go to the hero.jsx file, and down below I'm going to add section, and in this case we can call home to the hero section. Then go to the services section, add here section, it's going to be services. And finally we need contact section. Let's add here section contact. Now let's go back to the navigation circles file. I'm going to extract this prop inside the component, so we need here section. This will allow us to dynamically determine which section each instance of navigation circles belongs to. Right now all circles still have a gray background. We need to modify the classes of these circles so that each one highlights when its corresponding section is active. So I'm going to cut those classes. Then we need here curly braces with the backticks, and then I'm going to add here $sign with curly braces. So we need to check if section is equal to home. If it is correct, I mean true, then we need PG red 500, dark yellow 500, and if it is false, then we need PG gray 300. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of those 2 elements, and instead I'm going to duplicate this one. So here, as a guess, we need to change the conditions. We need here services and finally contact. So each circle now conditionally changes its background color based on the section prop. If this section matches home, it's the first case, the first circle gets highlighted. Then if this section matches services, the second circle gets highlighted. And finally, if this section matches contact, the third section gets highlighted. Now, if we check the browser, well, something's wrong here. Let's go back to the VS Code. So we have PG red, and actually we are missing here PG. Now, if we check the browser, the first circle gets highlighted when we are in the home section. The second circle is highlighted when we scroll to the services section, and the third circle is highlighted when we scroll to the contact section. Alright, so with this we have successfully implemented the navigation circles that dynamically highlight the active section as the user scrolls. Next, we need to take care of the navigation items and ensure that when users click on a navigation link, they are smoothly scrolled to the corresponding section. And also when we scroll and reach any of the sections, the corresponding navigation item is highlighted. Right now, the navigation links exist, but clicking them doesn't take us to the appropriate section. Instead, the default behavior does nothing. We need to implement smooth scrolling functionality so that clicking a navigation item takes us seamlessly to the section it represents. The goal is that when a user clicks on the home, services, or contact link in the navigation bar, the page scrolls smoothly to that section without any abrupt jumps. This will create a polished user experience and make navigation feel fluid and intuitive. The first step in implementing this feature is to create a state variable inside the Navbar component. Let's open it. So we need here a new state variable, and it's going to be active section. Then we need set active section. I'm going to get rid of React and import useState here. So this state variable is necessary because we need to dynamically update which section is active as users scroll or click on navigation links. Without it, we would not be able to highlight the correct navigation item or smoothly navigate between sections. Next, we need to create a reference variable that will help us manage whether the user is actively scrolling due to clicking a navigation link or just naturally scrolling through the page. This reference will prevent unnecessary state updates while the smooth scrolling effect is in progress. So here I'm going to create a new variable. It's going to be is scrolling ref. It should be equal to useRef, and the default value is going to be false. We need to import useRef hook from React as well. So this reference variable is crucial because when we programmatically scroll to a section, we don't want the automatic updates from scrolling to interfere with our active section state. It acts as a flag that tells us when a navigation click is actively controlling the scrolling, preventing unwanted behavior such as premature state updates. Now, let's create a handle navClick function that will handle the smooth scrolling effect when a navigation item is clicked. So we need here handle navClick. I'm going to insert here two parameters. The first one is events, and then we need section ID. So this function will be triggered when a user clicks on a navigation link. The first thing we need to do inside the function is call e.preventDefault function. So we need here e.preventDefaults. This prevents the default behavior of anchor tags, which normally causes the page to reload when clicking on a link. Next, we have to update the active section state by calling setActiveSection with the value section ID, setting it to the section that was clicked. So we need here setActiveSection, and I'm going to insert here section ID. Then we have to set isScrollingReference.current to true to indicate that scrolling is happening due to clicking a navigation link, not manual scrolling by the user. Next, we have to update the active section state by calling setActiveSection function, setting it to the section that was clicked. Actually, the Copilot is suggesting here the code, but I'm not going to use this entire code, so let's go ahead and write it anyway. So we need here setActiveSection with section ID. Next, we have to set isScrollingReference.current to true to indicate that scrolling is happening due to clicking a navigation link and not manual scrolling by the user. So we need here is scrolling ref.current equal to true. The current property is a fundamental part of the useRef hook in React. When we create a reference using useRef, it returns an object with a current property that can be used to store a mutable value. Unlike state variables, changes to current do not trigger a re-render, making useRef perfect for keeping track of values that should persist across renders without causing performance issues. Next, we have to retrieve the section that corresponds to the clicked navigation link. So as you can see, we have here the suggestion section variable, which equals to document.getElementById section ID. I'm going to change the name of the variable. Let's call it elements. If the element exists, we have to call scrollIntoView function, which will smoothly scroll to that section. So here we need elements. Then we need a question mark dot scrollIntoView, and the behavior is going to be smooth. So again, this line of code is responsible for smoothly scrolling to a specific section when a navigation link is clicked. We use here an optional chaining operator, I mean this question mark. The optional chaining operator ensures that the function only runs if element exists. If element is null, JavaScript will not execute scrollIntoView function, preventing an error. If element exists, scrollIntoView is called on it. Finally, we have to set a timeout for 1 second, and once the timeout is complete, we will set isScrollingReference.current to false, indicating that the smooth scrolling effect is finished. This ensures that we don't accidentally override the active section state due to automatic scrolling. So I'm going to use this code here. We have here setTimeout, and we set isScrollingRef.current to false. And the timeout is equal to 1000 milliseconds. Now that we have the function in place, we need to modify the navigation link styles so that the currently active section is visually highlighted. Inside the class name attribute of the navigation links, these navigation links, we replace the default text color with a conditional class. So I'm going to cut this class, and as usual, we need to use here backticks. So here I'm going to add $, then we need active section equal to home. If this is true, then we need text red 500 for the light mode, and then we need dark mode text yellow 500. And if this condition is false, then we need those classes. Actually, they are correct. Alright, so this ensures that when the home section is active, its corresponding navigation link is highlighted in red in light mode and yellow in dark mode. If this section is not active, the text remains gray. Similarly, we need to modify the underline spans beneath the navigation links to visually indicate the active section. So I'm going to grab these classes, then we need backticks, and I'm going to grab this expression. Let's add it here. So in case of span elements, we need background red and background yellow, and here we need again backgrounds. So BG gray 600, dark BG white. All right, so actually we are missing here scale x100, and then we need here scale 0, actually x0. So this ensures that when home is the active section, its underline is fully visible, whereas for inactive sections, the underline remains hidden. We need to repeat these modifications for the services and contact links as well. So I'm going to cut these classes. Then we need here this expression. Let's add it here. Then we need the same thing with this span element as well. Let's add backticks. Then grab this expression, paste it here. And let's do the same for the third link, which is contact link. Let's use this code. And finally, we need to take care of these span elements for the contact link. We need here these codes. Well, something's wrong here. For the span element, we need backgrounds. Let's replace this code. And we need the same code here as well. So let's check once again. We need texts for the links and backgrounds for the spans. Okay, I think that's it. Now we need to make sure that each section has the correct ID attribute so that the handle nav click function can correctly identify the target sections. So inside the hero section, I'm going to add ID to the wrapper development, and the ID is going to be home. Then we need the same thing for the services section. Let's add ID to the wrapper. We need here services. And finally, we need contact section. Let's add here ID with the value contact. With these IDs in place, the getElementById call inside handle nav click function will successfully retrieve the correct sections when users click the navigation links. Finally, we need to define the href attributes of the navigation links, ensuring they correspond to the correct sections. Let's go back to the navbar and modify the href attributes. We need here home. Then we need here services. And finally, we need contact. Alright, that everything is in place. Let's go to the browser and test the result. Well, we have here some problems with the navigation links. All of them are styled in the same way. Let's go back to the VS Code. So we need here not home, actually we need here home for the first navigation item. Then we need services, and then we need contact here. Let's go back to the browser. So now the navigation items are styled correctly. When we click the links, we're getting in the corresponding sections, but without the smooth effect. I think we are missing here the on-click event handlers with the links. So we need to add here on-click event handler. Then we have to pass here this code. Actually, it is correct. Let's grab this line of code, add it to the rest of the links, and then change the section names. We need here services and then contact. Okay, so finally it should work. Click, and here we go. So everything works fine except one thing. When we go to the services section, the home link remains yellow. Well, I already know what's the problem. It might have the default style. So I'm going to get rid of these classes from here. Let's go back. Now the problem is fixed. So when we click a navigation item, we see a smooth scrolling effect that takes us directly to the corresponding section without any abrupt jumps. Let's check the light mode. So everything is in place. Now that we have implemented the click functionality for navigation, the next step is to make sure that the active navigation item updates dynamically when the user scrolls. This means that as we scroll up and down, the navigation bar should highlight the corresponding section based on which one is currently in view. Right now, if a user manually scrolls instead of clicking a navigation item, the active section doesn't change. We need to track the scrolling behavior and update the navigation items accordingly, ensuring a smooth and interactive experience. To achieve this, we need to use the useEffect hook, which allows us to run side effects when certain conditions change. Since scrolling is an event that happens throughout the user's interaction with the website, we need to attach an event listener that listens for scroll events and updates the active section accordingly. Let's go back to the VS Code and first import useEffect hook from React. Next, we need to create useEffect hook. We need here a dependency array. So the reason we need useEffect here is that we want to listen for scroll events and execute code every time the user scrolls. Since scrolling happens at the window level, we need to attach an event listener that detects when the user moves up or down the page. Inside the useEffect hook, we start by defining a function called handleScroll, which will handle the logic of detecting which section is currently in view. So inside here, we need to create a new function, handleScroll. So before we start checking the active section, we need to ensure that we don't update the navigation while smooth scrolling is in progress. We have to use the isScrolling reference variable we defined earlier to track whether the page is scrolling due to a click or due to manual scrolling. If smooth scrolling is active, we exit the function early using a return statement. So inside here, we need if isScrolling reference dot current, and then we need return. Now we have to define an array of section IDs that we want to track. These are the sections that should trigger an update when they come into view. So here I'm going to create a new variable and it's going to be sections. It should be an array with the following items. Actually, here we have all of them. Next, we have to loop through each section in the array and determine its position relative to the viewport. We have to use the document.getElementById method to get the actual DOM element for each section. So here we need to loop through the sections using forEach method. We need here callback function with section ID. Then we have to create a new variable. It's going to be elements, and it should be equal to document.getElementById, and the value is going to be section ID. Next, we have to check if the element exists to prevent errors in case the section is not found. So we need if statement where we have to check if element exists or not. To determine whether a section is currently in view, we need to use the getBoundingClientRect method. This method returns an object containing the position of the element relative to the viewport. So inside here we need the structuring, and we have to extract top and bottom positions. So this suggestion is correct. Top represents the distance from the top of the viewport to the top of the section. Bottom represents the distance from the top of the viewport to the bottom of the section. Now we have to define a condition that checks whether the section is currently within the viewport and should be considered active. So here we need if statement where we have to check top is less than or equal to 100, followed by the AND operator, and then we need bottom is greater than or equal to 100, and as you can see, we need here set active section with the value section ID. So this condition ensures that if the top of the section is above 100 pixels from the top of the viewport, meaning it's in the upper part of the screen, and the bottom of the section is below 100 pixels, meaning it hasn't completely scrolled out yet, then we set that section as the active section by calling setActiveSection method. This updates our state and ensures that the correct navigation item is highlighted. Now that we have the handle scroll function fully implemented, we need to attach it to the scroll event so that it runs every time the user scrolls. So we need here window.addEventListener. Then we need scroll and function handle scroll. This means that every time the user moves up or down, the handle scroll function will execute and check which section is in view. Finally, we need to clean up the event listener when the component unmounts. We do this inside the return statement of useEffect. So we need here return. And as you can see, we need remove event listener with scroll and handle scroll. This ensures that when the component is removed from the DOM, the event listener is also removed, preventing memory leaks and improving performance. Now let's go to the browser and test the results. We can see that as we scroll up and down, the active navigation link updates automatically based on which section is currently in view. All right, so everything works perfectly, and with the navigation, finally, we are done. Now that we have successfully built all the sections of the page and implemented all the features and functionalities, the final step before we wrap up the project is to ensure that everything is fully responsive across different screen sizes and devices. Throughout the development process, we've been using Tailwind CSS responsive utility classes to make sure our layout adapts well, but we still need to test it thoroughly and make necessary adjustments where needed. Once responsiveness is fully optimized, we will also add a loader to the website to enhance the user experience. To ensure our project looks great on all screen sizes, let's go ahead and check it on a set of commonly used screen resolutions. I'm going to inspect the page and switch to the responsive mode. I have prepared 6 different desktop screens, 2 tablets, and 3 mobile screens. Let's go ahead and check the project on different desktop screen sizes. I'm going to check on smaller desktop screens, and now let's check on the smallest desktop screen. Well, we have here a little issue. So let's go to the services section. Let's increase slightly make it 850 pixels. So now as you can see, the problem is fixed. All right, so I think that on desktop screens, everything's look good. And now we can check the project for tablets. So as you can see, for both tablets, the project looks pretty nice. Now let's move on to the mobile screens. I'm going to start with mobile 1. So we need to make here some changes. The first thing we need to adjust is the Navbar. Right now the logo and the navigation links are aligned horizontally, but on mobile devices they should be stacked vertically in the center for better readability. To fix this, let's go to the navbar.jsx file and find the wrapper development. So as you can see, we have here flex layout, and I'm going to modify the class name. So we need flex column for smaller screens, and then after empty breakpoint, we need flex row. Besides that, I'm going to set here, actually let's add here empty breakpoint, and for smaller screens let's use justify center. So by doing this, we ensure that on smaller screens the navbar items align vertically in the center, while on medium and larger screens they remain horizontally aligned as they were. Now if we check the browser, the navbar looks perfect. It is now properly centered and looks clean on mobile devices. Next, we need to hide the navigation circles at all. Since there is limited space on smaller screens, these circles are not necessary and can be removed for a better user experience. Let's go to the navigation circles.jsx file, and I'm going to add here, actually let's find flex. So here I'm going to add hidden, and then we need empty flex. So as you can see, the navigation circles are no longer visible and we have much better results. Okay, now let's move on to the heading in the hero section. On smaller screens, the text is slightly misaligned and needs to be properly centered. First, go to the hero.jsx file and modify the wrapper span that wraps the letters in the hello text. So, I mean this span element here. As you can see, we have here just one single class flex, and I'm going to add here MX Auto for smaller screens and then empty MX0. Let's go to the browser. So with this change, the text hello is now perfectly centered on smaller screens, while on larger screens, it is placed on the left side. Actually, let's select the smallest mobile. Next, we need to center the second span element of the heading to ensure the text flows naturally in the layout. Let's go back to the VS Code. I'm going to modify this span element here. So we need to add here text center. Let's go to the browser. Now the text is properly centered on mobile screens, creating a more balanced and aesthetically pleasing layout. Next, I'm going to remove this rotating animation at all on mobile screens, and we can do that simply by adding here hidden. Then we need empty breakpoint. So now, as you can see, we no longer have here the rotating animation, and I think we have much better results. Alright, so on mobile devices, the social media icons need to be repositioned. Right now they are positioned in a way that doesn't quite fit well on smaller screens. We need to move them to a better location so they look clean and visually balanced. Let's go back to the VS Code and find social media icons. I'm going to add here some classes. We need position absolute, then empty breakpoint, position relative, then we need left position 4. As for the empty breakpoint, the left position is going to be auto. Next we have top position 20. Empty breakpoint, top position is going to be auto as well. Next we need flex column, and then we need empty flex row. Let's check the browser. So we can see that the icons are stacked vertically on mobile screens while maintaining their horizontal alignment on larger screens. Alright. Next, I'm going to move the heading slightly down so that it aligns better with the rest of the content. Let's go back to the VS Code, find the H1 heading element, and I'm going to add here margin top 8 and then empty breakpoints, margin top 0. Okay, so we can see that the heading now has better spacing on mobile devices. Alright, so let's check other sections. Well, I think everything looks perfect. The layout is fully responsive, all elements are properly positioned, and the overall user experience is smooth and intuitive. With these final adjustments, now the project is fully optimized for all devices. Now that we have successfully completed the responsiveness part, the final thing left to do is to add a loader to enhance the user experience. A loading screen can make the website feel smoother by preventing users from seeing unstyled or incomplete content while the page is still loading. we will display the loader for a short period and then transition to the main content of the site. So let's go to the VS Code and create a new component. In the components folder, it's going to be loader.jsx. Then we need here our ASCII shortcut. Let's go to the app.jsx file, import loader components. We need here loader, and we have to pass here down. Now let's switch back to the loader components and add some necessary JSX. We'll create a div that spans the entire screen, ensuring that the loader fully covers the page while it is active. Inside this div, we'll include an image to represent the loading animation. So here I'm going to get rid of this text and then add some classes to the wrapper development. We need fixed position. Then we need inset 0. It means that we set all 4 positions, I mean top, left, right, and bottom to 0. Next we need PG white by default, and in the dark mode we need PG gray 900. Next we need Z index equal to 50. Let's add grid with place, items, center. And inside this div element I'm going to add image. The source is going to be images, loading, GIF, 1, and the extension is GIF. Actually, we are talking about this GIF here. I mean, this GIF. Next we have alt attribute, and I'm going to add here loader, and then add class name. Width is going to be 40. Now, if we check the browser, we can see that the loading animation is displayed, completely covering the screen. However, right now it never disappears. We need to display it only for a short period and then fade it out smoothly. To do this, let's go to the app.jsx file and create a state variable to track whether the loading screen should be visible. So we have to define state variable. It's going to be isLoading. Then we need set isLoading. Let's get rid of React and import useState here. This state will initially be true, meaning that when the page first loads, the loader will be visible. After a short delay, we will update this state to false so that the loader disappears. To automatically remove the loader after 2 seconds, we will use the useEffect hook. So first let's import useEffect hook from React. Then I'm going to use it here. Actually, as you can see, the copilot suggests the entire code. It is actually true. The only thing that we have to change here is the amount of time. It's going to be 2000 milliseconds. So inside the useEffect hook, we have a timer using setTimeout. This function will wait 2 seconds before executing the code inside it. Once the time is up, it sets isLoading to false, meaning that the loader will disappear and the main content will be shown. Then we need to return a cleanup function that clears the timer using clearTimeout. So right after this code, we need to return, and actually not set isLoading, but we need here clear timeouts, and we need here time. So this ensures that if the component unmounts before the timer completes, it won't attempt to update the state, preventing potential issues. Now, we need to conditionally render the sections of our website so that they only appear after the loader disappears. To do that, first I'm going to wrap all the components inside the React fragments. So I'm going to add here React fragments and then wrap all the components inside here. Next, I'm going to add here the following condition, not isLoading, followed by the AND operator. And here I'm going to pass this code. So this means that if isLoading is false, the main content of the page will be rendered. Otherwise, only the loader will be visible. This ensures that users won't see the sections until the loader finishes displaying. Now let's pass the isLoading prop to the loader component. I'm going to add here isLoading equal to isLoading. This allows us to control the loader's visibility directly from app.jsx file. Next, I'm going to extract this prop inside the loader.jsx. I'm going to insert here isLoading. And finally, we need to modify the class name of the loaders container so that it smoothly fades out when isLoading becomes false. I'm going to cut those classes, and as usual, we need here backticks. So here I'm going to pass the following condition. We need $sign with curly braces. So inside here we need isLoading. If it is true, we need opacity 100, and if it is false, we need opacity 0 and pointer events none. So this ensures that when isLoading is true, the loader remains fully visible. Once isLoading becomes false, the opacity transitions to 0, making the loader invisible. Additionally, we add pointer events none, which prevents users from interacting with the hidden loader after it fades out. Let's go to the browser. I'm going to reload the page. Actually, we have an error. Let's check the console tab. Timer is not defined. Let's go to the app.jsx file. Well, we need timer here. I forgot to declare this variable. My apologies. Let's go to the browser. So when the page loads, the loader is displayed for 2 seconds and then it disappears, but without smooth effect. So we need here transition opacity, then duration 1000, and also let's add here is in out. Let's go back, reload, and that's it. Now everything is working perfectly and the user experience feels more polished and professional. Alright, with that we have completed the entire project. We built all the sections of the page, implemented essential features like smooth scrolling, dynamic navigation indicators, interactive hover effects, dark mode, and finally added a loader to improve the loading experience. I hope you enjoyed following along with this project and that you'll learn many new React and Tailwind CSS4 techniques. This project showcased modern web development practices, and now you have a fully responsive and interactive portfolio website. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next course.